Brace yourselves, peeps. It is me, George Brauchler, right back in the saddle on The George Show on 710 KNUS. A happy and extremely cold Thursday, the 22nd of December to you. We are running headlong right into the big holiday weekend. Of course, Christmas on Sunday, Christmas Eve on Saturday. Nobody's really doing anything tomorrow at work. School's out in Douglas County. Yesterday was the last day of the kids' school. So it is just party time now for about the next 2.5 weeks. We'll talk a little bit about the trip, but I wanted to update you on the forecast. Now, because I haven't been here for the last week, and let me just do the thanks right up front. First, biggest thanks to Billy for holding down the fort and keeping us on the air for the week that I wasn't here. That's no small task. My thanks to John Caldera, Johnny C, for filling in. We also had Deb Flora. 4 hours is a long time. I know that because I've been doing it now. I had done it for 3 hours on Saturdays, going way, way back, and then I downshifted to 1 hour. Up and 4 is a lot. And I think Deb proved she could do it. That's fantastic. And then, of course, Jimmy Sengenberger. Nobody better on the social media stuff. Like when I see Jimmy filling in and he's got the little pictures, the little, I don't know, ovals of the people he's interviewing and the flashy, I'm like, I wonder if I could pay Jimmy to do that for me. I mean, it's that kind of professional, good stuff. And thanks to Jimmy, I will be with you, of course, today and tomorrow. I think Monday, I'm not in because it's the day after Christmas. And then I have the rest of the week and all that other stuff. And I think you're with me. You're stuck with me until the military pulls me away again for some business later in January. Here's what the weather prognosticators say. And because we had all these fill-in guests, they're not committed to getting you the truth about the weather, not the way Big Daddy is. And so they have said that today is going to have a high of, wait for it, -2 degrees. Now, having just come from a place called Europe where they don't believe in Fahrenheit, they believe in Celsius, I think -2 degrees is like -1400 or something Celsius. It's like super cold. They all knew what the numbers meant. I didn't. I just have to go off a feel. Low today, -15. Now, we're going to explode up to 15 degrees tomorrow. We're going to more than double that on Christmas Eve at 35. And by Christmas, now here's the great part. I'm driving to work here this morning. I get here a little bit after Billy. And it feels Christmassy. People have their Christmas lights on. The businesses have their lights on. Snow is falling. There's barely anybody on the road, so you can drive pretty much like you normally would. No Californians are out of bed yet. And so I'm driving. I'm like, this is Christmas. This is really cool. And now I read that on Sunday, 47 degrees. So all of this stuff will have gone the way of the dodo by then. Get this, next Tuesday, and again, I know it's more than 3 days out, and if you're a regular listener, you know that Lisa Hidalgo pulled back the curtain on the weather Oz and showed us that anything more than 3 days out, they're just making it up. They're just guessing. But by next Tuesday, they predict 58 degrees. I mean, it's like topless Tuesday. I mean, for us around the radio station, that's really what I mean here. No expectations, Billy, that you chime in on that. Now, listen, are we up on the YouTube video today? Are we up on the YouTubes? I don't see it here on the monitors in front of me, and that concern.
It's unfortunate. It's in front of me. I see it.
You can see it?
Again, I question the decision-making process and its entire endeavor, but
well, if
I wasn't in the meeting.
If Mark Crowley is available, I just want to be able to see me on the monitor so I know what I'm doing. Because invariably, and Mark showed me a very unfortunate video of someone else like me in Chicago where they didn't turn the video off in between segments. And she was going like knuckle deep with the tissue up, and she clearly was sick or something, but she must have cleaned that beak out for minute, something like that, all on YouTube. And while I'm not opposed to putting that on YouTube, I guess I'd like to know that I'm doing it. And without seeing me on the monitor, I could do almost anything.
And at least you should be able to tag it and go viral, to earn it. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I want to be able to do it and maybe have my own channel devoted to it.
It's very nice that you're back, and thanks for bringing this cold temperatures.
Sweet goodness, buddy.
It's your fault. We had just fine temperatures, and all of a sudden George Brauchler gets back in town, and now everything goes to crap because you You, sir, have been taunting the weather gods. I blame you for this.
So while I was away, they thought we'll work our voodoo.
Yes.
They probably seeded the clouds.
Oh, yeah. They gave us beautiful sunshiny days. It was warm.
Bastards.
There were birds. I mean, you didn't even have to wear
birds.
Yeah, you didn't have to wear a seatbelt in times. It was that perfect. It was great. There were unicorns around. It was magical. And then you show up, and now it's a hellscape. I appreciate you. Thank you. Look what you did.
Well,
you
the good news is
yes.
they're scared because I'm back, and they projected that by next Tuesday we're going to go back to near spring-like weather.
Like,
which
we'll teach that radio guy. We're going to show him.
It's funny because it did snow in Germany and Austria.
See?
Now, listen,
they got
for those that can see us here on the camera,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. We're FCC obligated to say that. But we are sporting different headwear today. We might as well have that discussion. And Billy, because you and I did not get to enjoy the World Cup the way that we had up till that moment, that the finals was really something special. Tell us about your headwear today.
So this one here, this is Paris Saint-Germain. That is PSG, the most famous team coming out of the French league. And it is for both the winner and the loser of the World Cup, because Kylian Mbappe and Lionel Messi both play for PSG. So this is both for the winners and for the losers. So yeah, that's why I've got this one on today. And that was an unbelievable match. That was something that you understood the drama inside of it and how things change, and little things that are so different from us here in regular sports, as far as what happens in overtime. And then again, going to the penalty kicks and why that is a little trite, but also really difficult. And we saw a lot of things there. And then hopefully some people saw some of the interesting things that happened during the ceremony afterwards.
No, I didn't, but you told me about them, and now I want to go YouTube that thing.
Yeah, the parade is great, but even then, Argentina was kind of a mess during the celebration. There's a and again, I doubt lots of people watch this, and I actually YouTubed it later on because I wasn't going to sit through all the BS. But what's interesting about it, exactly. What they do is they set up a stage, and normally, like here in America, when you win, someone comes and presents you with the trophy. That is not how it's done in international soccer. You go in the World Cup and you claim the trophy. The trophy is brought out and set on a pedestal, and they have a whole bunch of other things they do first. And then eventually the winning team comes out, and then the captain goes over, and then he's allowed to pick up the trophy, and then things go crazy. Okay. It was really interesting.
Is Messi the captain?
Yeah.
I don't want that to sound stupid, but I don't know.
Yeah. And then the goalkeeper Martinez got in a little bit of trouble for some gestures he made during his winning of the Golden Glove, which makes him the best goalkeeper.
In the World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't he prove that at least in the PK thing? I still want to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. But the issue is, once they hand him the trophy, he does some not acceptable things with it. So
hip-related things?
Yes. He makes some gestures below the equator with it.
And it's funny because they're from below the equator.
And he is literally standing steps away from one of the rulers of Qatar when he's doing it. In fact, there are pictures online where he's doing this. He has a ridiculous look on his face, and there's a guy behind him that obviously is a billionaire looking at him like, I can't believe I have to stand here and watch this.
It's probably gold too.
It is. Yes, it is. It's a gold hand. Yes.
If there isn't more to this soccer thing than I've given it credit for up to this point, because
it's really weird.
These are characters I need to know more about.
There are some great characters, and there are some wonderful characters over the course of the year and years and years and years. One of the ones right now that unfortunately is the tail end of his career is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's an absolute character. Mario Balotelli was also just a head case, but there are some people that are just absolute nutcases. Joey Barton, and we can go back days. Joey Barton, basically, think about Joey Barton was I don't know, he was a psychopath playing him. He would much rather foul you than actually play the game. Yeah. Joey has some really, really rough tackles where you're just like, he wasn't even trying. Yeah. He was the Lyle Alzado in some ways.
Well, wait a minute. Lyle Alzado is one thing. Bill Romanowski, quite another.
Well, he's got some Romanowski tendencies too. He would he would fight.
He would spit into your face mask.
Absolutely. He would. Yes, he would. Yeah.
That's our kind of competitor. Yeah. What happens is when that guy's on your team, you love him. And the minute he's not on your team, you hate him.
Yeah. you hate him. But it was good. It was a nice, wonderful. And then we talked about the 4 million people in downtown Buenos Aires that basically shut down the entire downtown area. They couldn't do the parade because from the edge of the buildings all the way up to the edge of where the buses were people, and they couldn't get the buses through. So they had to bring in helicopters, and they flew them to the end of the parade. But the best moment was when and again, they're the open air buses, double deckers, they take the top off. And I told George about this beforehand. They're driving down the street. They're trying to get closer and closer, and they're going under an overpass. And people are packed on the sides of the streets. People are packed on the overpass, looking over, watching the bus. Their heroes drive underneath them. And a couple of fans got the idea, I'm going to join. They dropped off the overpass onto the bus. Yeah. However, there's one guy that he waited a little bit too long, and he hits the back of the bus and then tumbles and does a couple of flips before he hits the ground. And I laughed. I laughed much louder than I should have at his unfortunate pain. But yeah.
Oh,
they were
did he
crazy.
seem to get up and shake it off? I presume he was drunk. I mean, that's not a sober decision.
I did not see him get up. And there was one commentator that was interesting that was reporting on it that said he literally was walking down the street, as they're sitting for the parade, watching people that had passed out at various locations get up, go to find more alcohol, and stand there for the parade. They literally it was that much of a just ridiculous.
Listen, we don't even do that for Broncos or Abs.
Yeah,
I wonder what it would be like to do it for the Nugs.
Yeah, I wonder too.
And the Rockies someday. Yeah. Dang.
I know. So that was fun. So what's your hat on? What you got?
Listen, not nearly as special or storied, but as it turns out, my name, George, which is also my oldest son's name, he goes by Trey because that was a decision made without really my input or consent.
Is he the third George?
He's actually the fourth George, but the third George H.
Yeah.
And so he's always gone by Trey. There was some debate. Could he go by Trip? Because in my mind, Trey was the guy that, came in from the tennis court with the sweater wrapped around his neck and the racket and all that. And Trip was the dude that was dragging the keg up the stairs to the frat house. You know what I mean? And I'm let's go with Trip. And of course, once again, another failed idea in the Brauchler household that never took hold. So he's also George. But here's the deal. When you travel anywhere, and this includes in Europe, there are a number of restaurants and places that have George in them for different reasons. In Europe, there's a royalty aspect to it, right? Like St. George the Dragon Slayer or the patron saint of England and all this other stuff. And so I had taken to, when I was traveling, mostly here in America, to going to some nearby, I wouldn't go out of my way too much, but a nearby restaurant or someplace and grabbing a T-shirt or a hat or whatever they had to get my son. And yes, maybe daddy bought one for him too. But one time we were in Seattle and we were walking, God knows where, on some really cool historical tour. And we passed by this deli, George's Deli. So I go in there and I say, hi, love to pick up a T-shirt or something. And they're like, we don't have any T-shirts. I'm like, well, do you have anything? And they're like, well, like we've got some hats that we used to wear and stuff like that. Maybe some in the back that are like new-ish, And I'm like, how much? And they're like, I don't know, like $15. I said, sold. Get me 2 of those.
Oh, that's great.
So I got one for my boy. I got one for me. And I've done this, wherever I can. There are far more places out there that are not nearby where I'm going. But it just became this thing. So if you're looking online right now, I'm wearing a George's Deli hat from beautiful Seattle up there in the Northwest. That is that. Here's the other thing, though, I want to show you, Billy, because I think we have time to do it. By the way, for folks that have been like
video, you're talking about the rash?
No, not that part. I'll show that later. And if I stand up, it's not because I'm going tubing. You know what I mean? And I don't mean the kind of tubing where it's like snow related. But I am right now, because of the holiday, I'm wearing a special sweatshirt.
Oh, yes, you are.
It's got the peanuts on it. You can see that. I'm standing up, not to reveal anything down south. Mark, you don't have to go to the test pattern. But there's a special feature for this. Wait for it. 3, 2, 1. Booyah. Oh, man.
There's electronics there.
If you cannot see this, it's a huge mistake on your part because you haven't gone to YouTube, searched up 710 KNUS, The George Show, and subscribed and like it. And you got to do that for a couple of reasons. One, kind of interesting. Now you get to see these two clowns talk and really see what we look like when we're doing it. The other thing is, once we achieve a certain number of subscriptions, everybody gets a car. I'm not sure that's true. I just threw that out there to encourage people to go.
I think you're right. I think it's Matchbox, but still.
It's still, even if you could just get a Matchbox car for subscribing, I don't know if my words commit Salem to doing that, but it just happened. So Brian, Kelly, sorry for that. But you can also see right now, I've got Peanuts on here. And it's like, and by the way, great Christmas special. And when I touch a little button here associated with the shirt, it then lights up and it has these flashing Christmas lights. I wore this to the Army Guard drill thing that we had last for the holiday thing. I had been fortunate enough and really unexpectedly received an award. And so they called me. We're all dressed in our regular holiday attire and ugly sweatshirts and stuff like that. And I go up and it's an attention to orders moment. And if you're in the military, you know what that means. When someone's going to get an award, somebody says attention to orders, everybody stands up, including, and they start reading, because of his blah, 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 and adversity in the face of conflicting orders and food and drinks, and what a great job, and hooah, hooah.
We're still embarrassed he's here.
That's right. That's right. Can't imagine why he's still among us. Yes. And then I flick on this shirt, and it was the perfect timing. And I want to keep this thing going. I may wear this, I guess, until the season's over, but that's what I've got rocking right there. In terms of the trip, this is just going to be a reality for me on the radio. I have opportunities to go do things, many of them across the United States, some of them globally. And the problem that we have not yet figured out is how to match those opportunities, all of them, with the ability to continue to be on the radio. Because I'd have done it, right? Like Germany and Austria are 8 hours in our future. That would have been perfect.
That would have been easy.
I'd be doing this. Yeah, I'd be doing this show 2 p.m. until 6 p.m. And then it's Christmas market time.
Yeah.
Right.
Good. Yeah.
We just haven't yet figured that out. So you know this, Billy, probably better than some of these folks do, but I don't travel infrequently. And I've been East Coast a bunch, in the South. I don't know if I've done this on the West Coast yet, but it's coming up. But we've done the show remotely. Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen. If I could go to Hawaii, if I could pull a Stephen Tubbs, I'd do the show from Hawaii. We just haven't figured out how to do it from abroad. So we had to go a week of George on radio silence. But nonetheless, I try to combine these trips where I can, where it's responsible and always on my own time at the front end and back end to try to just, get to take in the sights. What is amazing about Germany and Austria in December, and for those of you that have been there, you know where I'm going with this, Christmas markets. These Christmas markets, you can look at them online, but you can't really appreciate them until you're there. Every town has one. Some cities, based on their size, let's say Frankfurt, Munich. I don't know if Salzburg has such a big one. I don't know if they have room for a second, but they have multiple ones. Wow. Like there's a medieval themed one in Munich.
And many of them, the original ones are hundreds of years old. I mean, they go back hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah.
And it is like, it's almost like a beer fest out here, maybe, but I can't tell you how well-behaved people are there. First off, I think the Europeans regulate how many homeless they permit. Like, did I see homeless people? Yes. I think I saw 3 and I was all over. I think I saw 3 total, never more than 1 in a single location. So I think they must give them special tags to be homeless in that area or something. And then you go to these Christmas markets and there's something called Glühwein. Holy smokes, buddy. This is G-L-U umlaut. That means you with the 2 little dots over it. W-E-I-N. This Glühwein is a mulled wine that is warm and it's deceptive. There's alcohol in it. Even your tongue tells you, hey, I think I'm detecting a little alcohol. And I'm not a big drinker, man. In college, I was semi-pro, right? Like I could go every night and deep, right? And my liver was really working well. I can't do that anymore. So I'm good for a beer every so often. When you go back to back nights of Glühwein, and I'm saying about 2 cups of this stuff in there. And the way it works is every one of these Christmas markets has a variation of things, different versions of a meat product, something chocolate covered this, all of these bakery things. They have like crafts, hats and gloves and little ornaments and all that. I mean, it's just such a Christmas motif, but at least 1 or 2 places sell Glühwein and some variation of it. And they have these cups. And they're specific to that Christmas market. And everybody works on the same system. And that is you spend €4.50, that's €4.50, what they call it, €4.50 for a Glühwein. but they charge you an extra €2 or €3 as a deposit on the cup. Don't return the cup. They don't care. Keep the cup. It's like a commemorative cup, but you return the cup and everybody has the exact same rate and all that. So about 2 Glühweins into this thing, buddy, I can feel it. I'm just thankful that it's a mass transit world out there because, but here's what I noticed. There's no fights. There's no aggression. Everybody, even though there could be mobs there, depending upon the night and the little thing that you go to, the little cubicle or whatever they call it. Everybody's well-mannered, no matter how much people have drank. I never saw people like fall down drunk, like not to excess. And I'm like, this is where we're different than America, right? Yeah. Like one, all the cups would be gone, right? Nobody's returning these cups or they're returning shards of cups.
Yes.
But people would be fall down drunk, vomiting on each. None of that, not even close to that. It was like responsible drinking in a way that just seems so foreign to me for having grown up here.
Like, I've been to enough Great American Beer Fest. You are exactly right as far as how that goes. Yeah.
It is crazy. And they have, in each cup is different. So this medieval one in Munich looks like a chalice.
Oh, wow.
And it was an extra, deposit. It was like a €10 deposit, which is a lot. But I'm telling you, I'm drinking this thing. One, it's not good for me to have had more than one, but I did. And I'm thinking, who's going to love this? The kids. The boys are going to love this thing. So in my suitcase coming back, I must have had, I don't know, 5 or 6 different mugs of this. And they're, Specific in time, specific in location. And some of them are great and some of them are not as great. You don't take the not as great ones. But it was a great time. And I think I put on 5 pounds legit. People say that when they travel. Good. No, legit 5 pounds. Like you're passing by some cheese-infused bratwurst where the only word you make out is bratwurst. They have a menu list where it's just like, it's got Kasse in it, Kasse, which is cheese, brat something, all these other things. And I'm like, I guess I have to have one.
Oh, you have to. Absolutely.
I can't not eat that. And it looks like
it would be rude if you didn't.
Right. It would be rude. Yes, I'm in their country.
Yes.
And it looks like they've taken what is a 14-inch sausage of some kind and jammed it into a 12-inch roll.
Oh, wow.
And then they're just like, mustard? I'm like, but they don't say mustard because that's not the German word.
It's not.
And I'm flattered. Maybe it's because of my pale appearance, my light hair, and my blue eyes. But everywhere I went, I got the benefit of the doubt initially with like Grüß Gott, or Morgen, blah blah, and instantly I go to my savior thing, which is Sprechen Sie Englisch bitte. And invariably, everybody in Germany speaks. I mean, even the people that are like, little bit. I'm like, right there, you've beaten up on my German.
Yeah.
You can say little bit in English.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, you win. Yes.
They all speak some kind of English.
Yeah, they do.
And so you go up there and they run something by you, and I'm just shaking my head. And the minute I start to make a word, they go right into English. They're like, oh, mustard? Would you like the mustard? I'm like, oh, great. I'll definitely have the mustard. And, buddy, I just pounded food like it was
I'm jealous.
gluttonous. Nice. It was gluttonous, but
it's good.
I wish it was Monday because I have so many complaints, so many customer service complaints.
Oh, I
can sum up the front end with this.
Yeah.
Landed in Frankfurt on Wednesday, a week ago yesterday. Supposed to get a connecting flight to Vienna.
Yeah.
That did not happen.
Oh.
That flight and the 2 flights after it that I were booked on were canceled.
Oh, no.
And the luggage didn't catch up to me until Sunday.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah. It was a treat. And when you tried to call, I don't know, Austrian Airlines, Lufthansa, or whatever, the customer service just kept disconnecting. I think someone was sitting there looking at all the flashing lights going, screw this. I'm gonna just start over. Exactly. I'm going to keep doing this till my shift's up. Start over.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh. Anyway, it was crazy. And someone texted in already, only 5 mugs. That's not only 5 Glühweins drank. No. It was at least double that. It was just 5 mugs worth retrieving.
Yeah. The other
that I brought home. There's one version of this, Billy, where they give you it's designed to hold a sugar cube.
Whoa.
They pour some kind of alcohol, could be amaretto, could be anything, could be gasoline. They pour it on there, and then they light it on fire.
Oh.
And the mug burns at the top with fire. until the sugar thing goes away.
Oh,
so,
I'm excited.
The boy in me, I'm like, I got to have that drink. I don't even know. Is it just straight turpentine? I'm in.
Doesn't matter. It's on fire. It doesn't matter. Anything on fire, I will buy.
Everybody in this packed Christmas market has one, and nobody sets anyone on fire. You know what I mean? Like,
fantastic.
It's so orderly. They're just so appropriately mannered. And I'm like, you could only, if you tried to do this here in America, you would have to, and I never saw a single polizei, not a single one.
Wow.
You would have to have an entire shift of Aurora PD hovering around that Christmas market, because it's going south.
Yeah, and EMTs and also the fire department just to hose people down. Because every once in a while you'd have some guy like the stuntman in the fire in the movies running around.
Yeah, you would running out of this, and frankly, it would only draw more people to the Christmas market, because they'd be like, "Oh my God, there's people on fire in there. Let's check that out.
What is happening? I got to find this one out.
I got to get 2 of those drinks.
Yes, exactly.
What's that drink? I'm certain too nothing would ever pass a public health inspection, although who cared, right? It was all great.
Yeah.
It was just anyway, it's so good to be back. And Amanda's back in town, so get a hookup with her today. I got in late last night, so it'll be good to spend some time with her and the boys. And they'll ask a lot of questions about the mugs, and I'll just have to tell a less alcoholic answer with a lot of that stuff. But kids, doesn't that look cool? Yes. It looks like a chalice. Yes. Yeah. But they've all been with me out there. They know the Christmas market stuff. Anyway, we've gone super long already. Bunch of texts coming in here. Someone texting in, most likely absinthe. Oh, the 5 wasn't only 5 mugs. The question was only 5 pounds. Yeah, it could be more. I don't know if you're looking at the YouTube, and if you are, screw YouTube, buddy. Okay, if that's hi George, is there a particular reason why you don't? Yeah, and then wait, were you gone for the last 8 days? Laugh out loud, Alexa. It's like 8 days. Only not quite 8 days, because I only missed 7 mornings of radio, really, Wednesday to Wednesday. We'll continue to take your texts. Here's the good news, folks, for you out there. We get an opportunity to do the You Choose the News and the Thorpe Report when we come back. It's been missing for a week. Billy, I presume now this is his A game. He's had plenty of time to stretch, to research, to the far crevices of the dark web, or whatever, billy.net or whatever it is. Is that true?
I've got a special one for you this morning.
Oh, thank goodness. Well, listen, stick around. When we come back, more of this, more of us. We'll have some topics to chit-chat about in the coming hours. We'll have Sheri Peif at 7, which is fantastic. And then we'll get to you. If you haven't already written the phone number down on your forearm, it's time to do it. 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971. Of course, as many of you have already figured out, you can hit us on the text at 710-KNUS app and the 710knus.com website. More of us during this wonderfully frigid holiday season. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler right back with you here on The George Show on a really frigid Thursday, 22 December. I would like to turn over the reins. You guys have missed it. I know I have. According to Alexa, thank you for the math correction, it really is 8 days. If I'm off the air Wednesday through Wednesday, I took off a shoe and counted it. She's right. It's 8. You have been missing the Thorpe report in the morning to get you up to speed on all the real news. Not that crappy CBS stuff that we have to hear. I'm kidding. It's great. But then You Choose the News, which is the fun way to learn, I think, for you and for me. If it takes 2 segments, Billy, I'm down with it. Let's go, Billy Thorpe.
Oh, good morning, sir. Thank you very much. Now, you were talking about it earlier. The Arctic air mass came in pretty much as forecast, bitter cold temperatures, and a couple of inches of blowing snow. That was kind of a surprise. Today, we're going to be looking for clearing skies. Temperatures are going to stay frigid. Bitter cold temperatures are going to continue tonight. Tomorrow, temps are going to slowly begin to moderate. And by Christmas weekend, highs will actually warm above seasonal norms for both Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Yesterday, Colorado Governor Jared Polis authorized the activation of more than 100 National Guard troop members. The members will be activated to support the extreme cold weather conditions and operations across Colorado. Elsewhere, Denver International Airport is experiencing a dangerous mix of sub-zero temps along with strong wind and snow. As of 5 o'clock this morning, more than 302 flights were canceled at DIA. It's odd that they said more than 302. Why couldn't they just say more than 300? I mean, just weird.
I don't know.
Why the two?
Getting the car last night was nuts. Yeah. I think I landed at ballpark 7:30. Did not get home till 10:30.
Ooh, ouch. More than 44 flights have been delayed so far this morning. More than 170 were canceled, and more than 700 were delayed yesterday. The Arctic blast of frigid weather from the Pacific Northwest is giving us winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings, along with wind chill advisories all across Colorado. In fact, some school districts said, too cold, no go to school. Denver Public Schools, Cherry Creek, Littleton Public Schools, and 27J schools are among the districts that are closed today because, well, in all honesty, your kids aren't smart enough to dress for the weather.
Listen,
that's what
it's right on the front edge of my guess is the Christmas break. So I think for teachers and admin, it's like, wait a minute. If we're not coming back on Friday. So let's just end this misery, right?
Yeah.
One other thing to mention on the National Guard thing.
Yeah.
Not 100% sure that all 100 were used this way, but a lot of what they were doing, I think, was using the National Guard to go out and look for those homeless and others in distress who are in need of some assistance during this bitter cold. So it's not a traditional mission, but it is a worthy one. And I'm glad we were out there doing it.
I really appreciate the fact that they're out there doing it because, again, the people that are out there and, spending their nights and sleeping on the streets already, choices aren't necessarily their strong suit. So I understand why we need to get out there and help them make some better choices.
And I get it that it's military and that it's the government doing it, but I do like the Christmassy spirit behind it too, which has helped those in need, you know?
Exactly. State regulators with the Public Utilities Commission have questioned Xcel's proposal for yet another electricity rate hike. Yes, they had a meeting yesterday following unprecedented comments objecting to the proposed increase. Xcel is saying they want to raise an extra $312 million in revenue. What does that mean to you and I? Well, it's an 8.2% increase. Let's dial it down even to the dollars and cents, $7.33 a month. For the average residential customer. That's what they're looking at increasing it. The commission has suspended this effective date of the higher rate increase because it was scheduled for February. Commissioner John Gavin, one of my favorites today, he called the commission, said, you guys need to go back and scrutinize this to a degree we've never done before, especially following a gas rate hike that recently went into effect and a separate request to recoup coal supply costs from consumers. Yeah, you remember the gas rate hike and that coal supply costs? Part of that was because Texas didn't do their job and we had to do some extra things.
And we foot the bill.
Yep. So that's part of the reason. Elsewhere, not good news. A teacher at Strasburg High School was arrested on allegations that he sexually assaulted an exchange student who was staying with him.
Oh, no.
Yes.
What?
Exchange student staying with him and assaulted it. Again, alleged. We'll see what happens. Former sergeant with the Cripple Creek Police Department was arrested on several charges of unlawful sexual contact while on duty. That's according to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. And finally, sad news. Ronnie Hillman, the leading rusher on the Denver Broncos Super Bowl 50 team, died yesterday. He was 31, had been in hospice in the Atlanta area with a rare form of cancer. He's unfortunately the second offensive starter from the Broncos 2013 and 2015 Super Bowl teams who has died in the past year. Again, we may remember Demaryius Thomas, the Broncos leading receiver on both Super Bowl teams, passed away just about a year ago. So that's unfortunate. But that's the end of the sad news. It's now time for the silliness. Yes!
Oh, I missed it so much.
It has been a while, but it is time for everybody's favorite radio news game show, You Choose the News, where we scour the interwebs for ridiculous stories, give them really stupid headlines, and play this crazy news game. Why? Well, because so far nobody's told us to stop. Today we are proudly sponsored by Dr. Doofenshmirtz Adult Pacifiers. Yes, why don't you just shut your damn mouth? We will get to the adult pacifiers in just a second, but first, we must play the game.
Hold on. We must acknowledge a text that said, I just now learned that Billy's a turtleneck guy.
Well, this is the one turtleneck I own. And the reason is, and here we'll do this. Okay, we'll bring this down just for a second. The reason I have this turtleneck on today is because it is actually a sweatshirt from the old Abercrombie & Fitch. It is fantastic. It's really warm and fuzzy, and it's wonderful. So when it gets really cold, I go turtle. Other than that, I have no other turtlenecks. Well, I might have one that has a radio station logo on the side of it, but I couldn't wear that here because it's the wrong radio station, so I can't do that one. So that's why I'm wearing that. Okay, back to the stories. Okay, sir, here we are. Your choices today. Story number 1, uncomfortable bomb threat. Story number 2, imagination failure. Story number 3, contaminated food or the hottest gastronomical trend. And story number 4, the anti-Shel Silverstein. All righty, sir. Your choices again today are uncomfortable bomb threat, imagination failure, contaminated food or hottest gastronomical trend, and finally, anti-Shel Silverstein. Your choice, sir.
Where the sidewalk ends for $1 billion.
Where the sidewalk ends. Yes, this is kind of interesting, but here we're going to go all the way to Huron County because recently in Huron County, there was a report of a man who was found in public having a disagreement, a very loud disagreement that was rapidly turning into a physical altercation. So police showed up and said, sir, what exactly is your issue with this tree?
No.
Yes, the 39-year-old man was confronted by police, and he was found to be extremely intoxicated and complaining that he had to fight this tree. Yes, you read it correctly. He was taken he was arrested on a public intoxication ticket, was held overnight to sober up, but I'm sure whatever happened, it probably was the tree's fault.
Would he stop? You see how we just did that
nice
right
job.
there?
That's
Guy
good.
was going out on a limb with that one.
He was.
Hello.
Oh my
Could
gosh.
do this all day. Make like a tree and get out of here.
Yes.
Oh, Biff.
Okay. Your second choice this morning, sir. Uncomfortable bomb threat, imagination failure, or contaminated food, or hottest gastronomical trend.
I feel like now's the time to do a bomb threat thing.
Bomb threat. Here, we're going to go across the sea, and we're going to visit the French. Yes, because recently, Hospital Saint-Maurice in Toulon had to have an emergency bomb threat. Part of the hospital was evacuated. Why? What caused this sudden danger at 9 p.m. at night? Because of a patient. Yes, 9 o'clock at night at the Hospital Saint-Maurice in Toulon, France, an 88-year-old man walks into the emergency room, and he creates a bomb threat. Why? Well, it has to do with what's wrong with him. Yes, the 88-year-old man arrives in the emergency room saying, I need a little help. I have this World War I artillery shell lodged somewhere uncomfortable.
No.
Yes, in fact, it's very difficult to sit down at this time.
No, there's no.
So, yes, he had inserted it in something that normally is an exit only.
Why? Why that thing?
Well, I know. That's the thing. So bomb disposal experts were actually called to the scene, and they had to diagnose whether or not this shell would explode inside the man or if they removed it outside the man. 88. So,
88?
Yes. There's so many questions. I know.
This is... I don't know if I should be horrified or feel pitiful for the guy.
Now, the doctors did spend about 20 minutes trying to figure out how to remove the shell, which was 20 centimeters long and more than 5 centimeters wide.
Oh, my God.
Yes. They couldn't do it. So basically, they had to take him into surgery and remove it through his stomach, which now is going to be the most uncomfortable scar to explain.
Any chance at all he could have just gone with a roll of Euro or something like quarters?
Exactly.
I mean, is it unexploded ordnance?
Yeah, unexploded ordnance. Yeah.
At this point now, I think he's legally obligated under French law to give an interview. Like, what were you thinking? Tell me what you were looking at around the house when you settled on that.
And goes, this goes in there.
Yeah, and when you were holding it, what made you think, you know what?
Yeah.
I can pull this off.
Yeah.
You know?
I have military training.
I mean, this guy has those special bars surrounding the commode just because at 88, man, you're not popping up off of that thing.
At all.
And it's is it loneliness? Did he lose a loved one?
The other part is this: is that he didn't start with the shell. That there's a progression that had to happen.
Oh yeah,
and I'm just curious. The evolution of what we inserted inside of our bum.
Whatever the French word is.
Do? Yeah.
Toicus.
All right, your final choice this morning, sir. Imagination failure or contaminated food / hottest gastronomical trend?
Well, it's in the same anatomical area. Let's go with gastronomical
trend. Now we're going to go all the way to Australia for this one because
if someone stuck a kangaroo up there, Billy, I'm not going to be able to do it. I can't.
This has to do with food and a specific food recall in Australia recently. Now, again, it seems bad, but is it really bad? Well, somehow 130 fans of salad in Australia got more than they bargained for recently when picking up grub. It was contaminated baby spinach and had a special ingredient inside. Now, it's just a weed that grows naturally. However, when ingested, it can cause hallucinations, delirium, and stomach cramping. So
what is it?
It's a specific weed that grows in Australia. I'm looking for what the name is, but basically it was mixed in when they were harvesting the spinach. They didn't know this weed was also growing in the spinach patch. So they harvested the spinach and then they processed it. And then when people went out and got their spinach salads, some of them got a little extra and got a little trippy and had some hallucinations and some delirium and some other stuff.
That may be a new trend. You're right.
Exactly. We've seen the thing where people are trying to cook with cannabis.
Yeah.
So, why wouldn't they try to do this? Symptoms reportedly include delirium, confusion, hallucinations, dilated pupils, rapid heartbeat, flushed face, blurred vision, dry mouth, skin, and fever. So basically everything that I experienced before the show starts. That's pretty much it.
That's insane.
Yeah. So
although, what do you do then? Like, listen, if this is real too. In the Guard, we do the P test thing all the time.
Yeah.
And invariably somebody tests positive for a substance. They try to come up with a story of how it happened. And this is no joke. In the Army years ago, guy tested positive for cocaine and said that he had been at a party and there was a ceiling fan on and somebody threw a large quantity of cocaine into the ceiling fan. And I'm like, were you at Scarface's house? Because nobody on the planet Earth would do that. Just throw that kind of coke. I just can't imagine. So the idea that we've now created a vehicle for someone to say, I didn't smoke marijuana, I just ordered a salad. I was trying to be super healthy and they spiked my salad. They spiked my salad?
It must have been all the poppy seed muffins.
Salad roofie?
Yeah,
what is this?
I know. It's kind of fun though. I still think that there's someone out there going, I should have thought of that. I could have made this a smoothie. Did we not
do this? I've been smoking hemp rope all this time.
Jamba Juice is very, very mad. Alrighty, that is it. That is the end of today's You Choose the News. And we are proudly sponsored by Dr. Duvenschmert's Adult Pacifier. Yes, sometimes you just need to shut your damn mouth. So this adult pacifier has a ability to slowly secrete a mild horse tranquilizer. So yes, when things get difficult in your life or you have someone that's really ticking you off, take a moment for yourself and just quietly let those problems disappear. Or buy a salad. Seems to do the same thing.
Oh, my good Lord.
All righty, back to you, sir.
Billy, thank you so much. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. Whatever time we have left, we'll do the quick transition over to the 7 o'clock hour. Sheri Peif, presumably indoors at this point, whatever bar she's struggling to get home from. I hope she's home now where it's warm. We'll talk with Sheri from Complete Colorado about what she's got going on, and then we'll get into the topics of the day. And you know what? If something's interesting you, it's been off for a week, you haven't been able to do it, give us a call, 303-696-1971. George Brauchler, George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Folks, that's how the sausage gets made right here at Christmas Market Radio. George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. We're going to be back in just a few minutes with Sheri Peif from Complete Colorado. She even called in early, which tells me something's going wrong with her. We're going to figure out we're going to get to the bottom of it when we get back. And then we're going to talk about some language changes we're required to make because of Stanford. George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. on this chilly Thursday morning. Sheri Peif from Complete Colorado. Thanks for calling.
Hey, you sound unusually somber this morning. Aren't you in the Christmas spirit?
I feel like I'm in the Christmas spirit. Did you listen to that first hour?
I did not.
There was a complete lack of sobriety, or whatever the version of somber is that measures iety. Yeah.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. I did not. I missed it.
You missed all the stuff we said about you too. Well,
not surprised. No.
You are in the lobby of which drinking establishment right now? I'm kidding.
The three huskies who don't care that it's 20 below zero outside that I've been dealing with all morning.
What?
That's the lobby I'm in. My three huskies. I have three huskies.
Oh, so this is their world. They love this.
This is their world, and it has been in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out all morning.
Listen, are they well trained enough that you can stay on the confines of the inside of the house and they'll run out, do their thing and come back? Or do you have to leash them and go out there?
No. I have a huge backyard and they are totally capable of running around outside for a little while until they finally realize that it is just a little bit too cold. And then they come crying at the door and I let them in. 3
huskies is a lot. And for those who are thinking about trespassing your home, and I'm not one of them, are they dogs that will bite someone?
No, I probably have 3 of them. I know. I probably have 3 of the most passive dogs on the planet. They're actually wonderful. It's a wonderful breed. It's a very high-strung, high-maintenance, energetic breed, but they're very passive dogs.
And long hairs.
Long hairs. Yes.
Yeah. So you're cleaning that off the couches and stuff.
Yes, I have 2 Roombas that go nonstop all the time to keep the hair out of my house, and one on each floor. And they're definitely not the type of dog that you want. Oh, how cute! Look, we just got done watching Balto. Let's get our daughter one for Christmas. You want to think that through before you go investing in a husky.
Well, do the dogs play well with the Roomba?
So 2 of them could care less about the Roomba. One of them is scared of it. One of them will do everything he can to dodge it. Yes, he will. I have one of my oldest is very timid about a lot of things like that. So he will do what he can to dodge it.
I suppose, using the Robert De Niro line from The Untouchables, is it better to be loved or to be feared? I think the Roombas answered that. Probably better to be feared.
Exactly.
Sheri, as we look at the end of this year, what I really should ask you about, and I should have prepared you for this, are biggest stories of the year that don't involve the Republican bloodletting on election night. But then you've also written this killer piece on what is about to happen to our pocketbooks. And it's even more painful because I'm getting texts from folks like Alexa and others here about their energy bills that they've just opened up, and they're redunculous. Billy did a story in the last hour, the one that you weren't listening to, and he talked about how Excel is back at it, saying, could we just maybe raise things by another 8.5%? It's just really tough for us to make ends meet when we're a monopoly.
Yeah.
And now you've come along with this story about another hit to our pocketbooks.
And which I've done so many of those. I'm
sorry.
Not sure which one you're referring
this
to.
This is family.
Oh yeah, for people like me who will probably never ever need it. I mean, knock on wood that there's not like a family emergency and I have to take care of a loved one. But you've got people who are going to have to pay for other people to take maternity leave and paternity leave and things that,
or not even those things. Like to quote unquote care for an ill person. Maybe you need a mental health week. I don't know.
Yeah. No, and you can't even opt out of it. I don't have a problem with people who want to opt into it, but there's 2 big problems with this bill. The first one is that governments get to opt out of it. If your local school district decides that it's not worth it and they can't afford it, they don't have to do it. But if your local tax accountant who happens to employ 9 people,
is that all it takes?
Yeah, I think it's a weird threshold. It's like you have to pay it no matter what. The employee has to pay their 0.45% no matter what. I think if you have 9 or more employees, that's when the employer has to match it.
I just don't get it. Again, this is government creating an entitlement. We'll never be able to undo this, right? And remember, they put it on the ballot, and it just sounds so good for folks out there, and especially in a left-leaning state the way Colorado's become. It seemed like such an awesome thing to do. And now it's starting to take effect. But I do remember that when they were crafting this thing, you're right. Governments were like, wait a minute, this is going to be a hit. Can all levels of government opt out? Just state government?
All levels of government, including down to your local fire district.
Because local governments shouldn't care for their employees and give them their earned leave?
Yeah, I guess, not really. I think it's because local government shouldn't have to pay the same taxes that private industry does.
This is all workers whose employer does not offer a compatible program. And my guess is, Sheri, that compatible program means one that does everything that the government tells it to do.
Yeah, it's not going to be able to be just similar in nature, or, it's going to have to be exactly what the government, what family does, and or more. It has to be 100% compatible or better.
Employers with 9 or fewer employees don't have to match, but the employees will still be required to pay their share. So this is just a straight up tax on workers. This is just a straight punch to the face on workers. Lottie-dottie, everybody that's an employee, that's a W-2, has to come up with 0.45% for their pay.
Yeah, and you have to do it for the entire year of 2023 with no ability to take benefits until 2024.
Here's what's interesting. This part right here, Sheri, is crazy insidious because of the way it was worded when it was passed. The 0.45%, this is your words, is only guaranteed for the first 2 years of the program. What does it allow, Sheri? Tell us how it allows it to be ratcheted up after that without our consent.
So right now, the way it's written, the total between the employer and the employee would be 0.9%, 0.9 of 1%. If in 2 years the state has recognized that 0.9% cannot sustain this, which it won't be able to sustain this, there are several studies out there that have shown that it's not going to sustain it. But if they decide that it can't sustain it, the director of this overall program, who is going to be obviously a government appointment,
obviously elected by the people, a director is elected. No. Oh, wait. The director, I presume, is a political appointee.
Yes, it's going to be a political appointee. But that person is going to be able to raise that from the 0.9 to up to 1.1 without asking taxpayers. So it'll just instantly go from the 0.45 to probably the full 0.55 per, half of it employee, half of it employer, without asking the taxpayers. But even then, even if after 2 years, the 0.55, again, we're going to see that it's not sustainable, and they're going to have to go back to the taxpayers and ask for more money. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's not going to be able to be revoked. We all know what government subsidies do, people. Once you have a government subsidy in place, you can't take it away.
Nope. Everybody expects it. And you look like the curmudgeon, the Scrooge, for doing it. Here's another magical thing that you have in your column at Complete Colorado. This is page 2. Can I opt out? ? What's the answer?
Nope. It doesn't matter. As I said myself, I'm in my 50s. There's no more kids coming my way. I pay for long-term disability. My employer pays for short-term disability, and I have a pretty good benefits package that includes, time on or personal time off days that I can take for being sick or whatever. So I fully feel insured enough that if I needed to take 12 weeks off to care for a family or to care for an emergency to my part, I'm already paying for that. But unfortunately, I get to pay for this as well.
Here's something underneath that can I opt out thing. You have these other exceptions. This is fascinating stuff. Federal employees cannot receive state benefits, so they don't get the wage deduction. Right. It says employers that have chosen to cover the employee's portion will not see it. So I imagine there's some employers out there who are like, oh, heck, we're just floating in coin. We'll just go ahead and pay for the employee's deduction too. Think about 1.2% of your salary. That's a hit. You are going to lose 1.2% of your salary here, probably starting in 2025, just because the government wants to fund people who want to take off a bunch of time on your back to have a kid. It says family is optional for self-employed workers.
Mm-hmm.
What? Mm-hmm. However, they must agree to participate for 3 years if they choose to. You can't just like jump in for a year and get out. You got to be wedded to this thing for 3 years. I am going to get hit with this deduction to my salary here at Salem because I'm a W-2 here. I'm self-employed in a bunch of different environments, but I'm a W-2 here. Billy, you're going to get hit. All that family leave you were planning on taking for having the kids that you're never going to have again. Here's how we fund this thing.
Well, and let's do the simple math because I just said that this thing is not going to be which is really scary coming from the mouth of a journalist. But I just said that this thing isn't going to be self-sustainable. So let's pretend I, Sheri Peif, in 12 months when we're able to actually claim this, let's pretend that I have a qualifying event.
Okay.
So for all of 2023.
By the way, congratulations on the pregnancy.
Yeah, Lord help us. For 2023, my share on, let's just call it, like I said, simple math, a $50,000 salary. Between me and my employer, I have paid in $550 into this fund. Okay. But come January, let's say January 15th, I all of a sudden decide I have to file this, and I'm now going to claim it for the next 12 weeks. I have paid, myself and my employer have paid $550 into this thing for me, and I am now going to claim 3/4 of my $50,000 a year salary for the next 12 weeks.
Wait, that's totally sustainable. Totally sustainable. Solar.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Not every single, I know. Now, granted, not every single person in Colorado is going to claim it, but do you know how many people on a $50,000 a year salary would have to pay into that to make up for one person on a $50,000 a year salary claiming that for 12 weeks? Because I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's something like 90% of your salary for the first for like the first so much of your salary, you get like 90%. And then for the next part of your salary, you get 50%. So it's not even like unemployment where you only get 2/3. You get the bulk of your salary for 12 weeks. And
that's
on
crazy.
$50,000, somebody's only paying in $550 between the employer and the employee.
Sheri, who certifies that you have a family, FAMLI, you ain't got no alibi? Who certifies that you have a family qualifying event that allows you to basically have other people pay for your existence?
Well, and that was the hardest part of this whole story, because it appears that a qualifying event is something that is qualified under FMLA, the federal requirement for 12 weeks of leave. But there's this one clause in there that talks about, injury or illness that I'm not sure what they mean by injury. So can it be
emotional?
Well, I think it can be emotional, but let's say I decide to have double knee surgery. If I have chosen to have the double knee surgery, I can claim my short-term and long-term disability with that, but can I claim family with that? That was a chosen act.
And like double dip?
Yeah. That's the part that I don't know. Are we going, and nowhere can I find anything, because again, this thing is so new, and that's why governments are allowed to opt out, by the way. They're allowed to opt out because this thing is so new that the state of Colorado really doesn't have all the rules in place and really doesn't know exactly how they're going to administer it yet.
I'm shocked.
So they're giving local governments the option to opt out so they can watch it for a couple of years to see if it's worth it.
Here's what's interesting.
But you don't get to let private industry opt out to see if it's worth it.
This is what's interesting. Governments know what a garbage plan this is for them to be self-sustained. And governments, by the way, don't exist because they make any revenue. They get all their money from us, right? According to your article here, 84% of local governments who've completed the registration process thus far have opted out. I mean, that is telling.
And I don't know who all those 85% are, obviously, but I can make an educated guess as to who they are. They are the larger governments. My guess is the little town of Carr, up in the northern far corner of Weld County, close to the Wyoming border, probably hasn't opted out because it probably actually saves them on benefits because they probably only have 10 employees. But I do know city and county is, I think the city and county of Denver actually did go into it. I can't remember for sure, but I know that the city of Greeley has opted out. I know that most of Jefferson County, most of Larimer County, most of Douglas County, I know almost every school district has opted out.
This is crazy.
You can't afford that kind of.
There's other things you put in here.
benefit.
I don't know why I didn't know this before when I voted against it on less than this information. This isn't right out of your column there on Complete Colorado, page 2. It says governments must readdress their decision at a minimum every 8 years. So it's not like they can just decide right now, no, this is a dumpster fire of a government giveaway. We don't want to be a part of it. Every 8 years, which tells you they're going to have a turnover in representation to get there. They have to re-vote on whether to opt out every 8 years. And if they choose to participate, they must do so for at least 3 years before they can opt out. Here's the other thing that's offensive to me. One of the least consumer-friendly tricks of the trade out there is the opt-out clause, right? Like it's the old Columbia Records model where you get 3 free ones and then they hit you with one every month unless you do something to opt out or whatever. And now we've seen it twice. One at this macro level, which is all the governments out there having to opt out of family rather than having to opt in. And then the other one that you and I have seen is the state park pass, which Polis runs around and says, hey, everybody, I've reduced it down to $27. And he's done that because you and I are unwittingly paying for everyone else's park access because there's an opt-out provision to say, I don't want to pay that fee. They don't advertise it. There's no big signs when you go to register your vehicle or get your driver's license that says, check this box if you don't want to pay for someone else's park access. This is becoming a recurring theme where government, especially on the left, relies upon apathy and a lack of knowledge to get things done.
Opt out to me are the two most dangerous words in government policy making right now. And you see it is a huge thing at the school district level. When you have all these things going on in the school districts right now, where parents are like, I don't want my child to take that survey. I don't want my child to learn about that particular aspect. I don't want my child to do this. You have to opt out of every single one of those. And the school district doesn't always have to tell you when something's coming. So you as a parent literally have to be on the phone with your teacher on a daily basis going, so what survey are you going to take tomorrow? Or, so what does your curriculum look like tomorrow that I don't want my child to do? Because that is, you're right, it is to me, it's the laziest way for government to get what they want. They know that the majority of the electorate is not going to pay that kind of attention to what's going on. And if you're a family that has 3-4 cars and you're paying that $27 on every single car every time you license it, you're not taking, if you and the kids you and the family want to go to the mountains next weekend and go to one of those parks, you're not taking all 4 cars up to the park.
Nope. No,
but you're paying it on all 4 cars.
It's insidious. Here's something else. You quoted Common Sense Institute, which I'm a big fan of. In full disclosure, I am a fellow for their criminal stuff. And they put out something, I didn't participate in this study, but they did a study of family, FAMLI, and they determined that it's going to go bankrupt. How long will it take them to go bankrupt, Sheri?
I think they determined 2025.
So in its second year of existence.
In its second year of existence. Again, you can't pay.
Oh my goodness.
This is why insurance companies make so much money. You can't pay into a model $550 for the year. If I am a 30-something-year-old happy couple determining when I'm going to have a baby, I am going to start planning to have that baby. I will be really curious to see how many babies are born in the months of January, February, and March 2024.
Try to get it in before the thing goes bankrupt. But you and I know what's going to happen here, and it's put in your column here also. It says in 2025, if the premium increases to its maximum of 1.2%, the program can grow only to 7.5% usage with an average leave length of only 10.2 weeks. Further legislative action, and that's the key set of words right there, would be required, increasing the premium or reducing the benefits to continue the program. You and I know which direction this thing is going to go. Nobody's showing up to say, let's cut back on benefits.
No, and that's one of the questions that is unanswered at this point. because nobody knows how much of a detabering effect this bill has had, or this new statute has. Because right now they can raise it to the 1.1 without taking it back to the taxpayers. We know that. But that phrase that you just read there, that without legislative intervention.
Action. Yep, action.
Yeah,
right.
Without legislative action, did that detaber it to the point of where the legislature can now change the statute to say, well, we're going to take it from 1.1 to 2.2?
Well,
or does it mean the legislature has to take it back to the voters?
So you and I, and anyone who's actually read Tabor in the state constitution, would say, no, you absolutely have to go back to the voters.
Right.
But if you're a member of the appellate courts, all of whom have been appointed by Democrat governors, they have routinely come up with ways to work around Tabor. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts here.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what's going to happen with family, is you are going to watch this end up in the courts. You're right. We've seen what the courts do to Tabor. I mean, there's how many fees out there now that are not taxes?
Sheri, last thing, is the state government immune from this thing too, or are they subject to family?
Oh, that's a really good question. I just totally drew a blank there. I think they're required. I can't remember. I know it's in my story, but I just drew a blank on that.
I'm looking for it. Here's what I got. It will cost the state government. Here it is, which is required to participate in the program, up to $94 million a year in additional benefit costs. Oh my good God, man.
Yeah. So where's that $94 million going to come from? Well, plan on some more gas fees and some more license plate fees, and that state park pass will probably go up to, $37 in a couple of years.
This is crazy too.
You got to pay for the $98 million.
The direct cost of premium, this is from the CSI report, the direct cost of the premium would amount to an effective increase in personal income taxes of between 8 and 18%. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable.
Well, I think in my lead or in my story somewhere there, George, we called it, or maybe it was maybe my editor put it on the headline or whatever. But family effectively is a 0.45% inflation hike on the taxpayer starting January. I mean, it's just another 0.45% added to the current inflation.
Sheri Peif, I feel like this is a giant lump of coal that is going to show up in my stocking, and I feel like I've been a pretty good tax earner this year, so I don't know why I made it on Santa Polis's naughty list, but it looks like this thing's coming for us.
Well, you've got a lot coming for you come January 1st. I mean, the cost of eggs is going to increase at some point, because of January 1st, we all have to go to this cage-free system, and so.
Oh no, is that true?
I mean, I know you've talked about that one already. I was at the grocery store the other day.
I can't believe it's this year. Oh.
This lady was buying eggs the other day, and she looks at me and she goes, "Why am I paying $8 a dozen for eggs?" My. And one of those little shoppers was standing there for King Soopers, and she goes, "Well, I think the chickens might be sick. I think we're just having a hard time getting eggs in." And I said, "No, you're just having a hard time you're just trying to get rid of the ones that you have to sell by January 1st. If you think you're paying a lot now, wait till January 1st rolls around."
Well, I guess it's consistent. I mean, we've turned the key and opened up all the cells for the criminals. Why not do it for the chickens too? And hope that they can continue to produce eggs. Hey, Sheri Peif, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year if we don't get you on before then. Enjoy it all. We love reading your columns at Complete Colorado, the page 2. It is wonderful.
Thanks, my friend, and Merry Christmas to all of you there and at Salem, and Happy New Year to you as well.
Next year, YouTube for you, sister. Get ready for it.
Have a good one. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Hey, that's Sheri Peif. We love talking to Sheri. Sheri's super smart, and she just gets into stuff at a level you can't normally get from the other big papers out there. We're going to cut away for a break, come back, and chitty chat with you. What did you hear out there? What do you think about all this? And we're going to get into some stuff Stanford is doing. If you haven't heard about it, buckle up. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today. Want to take
George Brauchler right back with you here on the George Show 710 KNUS. My thanks to Sheri Peif from Complete Colorado, page 2, column that she had on what is going to start hitting us here in the near future. I'd forgotten, God, all about the cage-free eggs thing, and whatever, man. I mean, at some point, you just have to decide if this is the state that everybody else wants. I got to make a decision here. Now, I have no intention of leaving my home state here, but good God, man, what have we done? Got to have cage-free eggs? Really? The $8 per whatever it was Sheri said per eggs? And then the this family thing, which is, and you know what's coming, folks. You know it's just going to fall to us, people that actually earn money and pay taxes. A couple texts. Interesting here. I thought conservatives are pushing young white, they said whites, women to have babies. Why white women? What the hell does that mean? I thought conservatives are pushing young whites women to have babies, but if you do, you are on your own, no comma in between those thoughts. Yeah, no. So I wrote back, so having a baby should be on everyone else, maybe plan. I think we want to encourage families. Sure, we want to encourage people to have kids and have families, and all that stuff leads to a more stable, safer, more prosperous community. But that doesn't mean I want to be on the hook for someone else's procreation decisions any more than I am already. I mean, that just sounds a little crazy. Here's one. You do know, and nothing starts better than when you start with "you do know" as a condescending text here. You do know that at least half of all pregnancies are unplanned, and conservatives want all the unplanned pregnancies carried to term. Yeah, I don't know why that means we now have to be on the hook for someone else's 12 weeks of paid leave. This kind of talk has been going on for a couple decades now. Everybody looks to Europe and says, but in Europe, they're able to take off like a year because that's the most formative year of the child's life and society's on the hook for it. But remember, too, they have confiscatory tax rates for what you earn. Hey, I love being out there, man. Their mass transit is the bomb. It's second to nothing else that I've ever seen. I don't want to pay for that. I love taking advantage of it, but I don't want to be on the hook for that. I'm not ready to give up 45% of my earned dollar so that everyone else can make decisions about how to live their lives on my dime. That doesn't seem fair. I'm already on the hook for too much. I imagine a lot of people think that too. And the fact that half of all pregnancies are unplanned. Okay, now what? I mean, it's not like the sex was unplanned. That happened, right? I mean, take away the incest and the rape and all that stuff. Tell me that the sex was unplanned. There we were in the produce aisle at Safeway. I dropped an apple. Next thing I know, come on, folks, let's get real here. The idea that we want to be pro-family doesn't mean we have to be pro-you and me paying for everyone else's family. That's crazy talk. This conversation reminds me of the omnibus that they're going through with in Congress today. Also, what is that, a 4,200-page bill that was dropped 15 seconds ago? And now they're being required to vote for it before they let these folks go. There is a congressman out there, by the way. If you have not checked out his Twitter feed, you should do it. His name is Dan Bishop. He's a representative from North Carolina, and his team has gone through and tweeted out here within the last, day or so, some of the most, what he titles, egregious provisions of the bill. And he's got some stuff in here that talks about, get this, for this $1,000,000,000 omnibus bill. It expressly prohibits CBP, Border Patrol funding, from being used to improve border security. Can you imagine that? It cannot be used to increase it at all. Here's another one. It allocates $410 million towards border security for Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Oman. This is unreal. And of course, $1.4 trillion for membership in global multilateral organizations. It's $1.4 billion. $1.4 billion for participation in the UN and other groups. Unbelievable. The word salmon appears 48 times in the bill. $65 million being appropriated for something to do with salmon. What in the hell does that have to do with an omnibus budget bill? $3 million Wait for this. Bee friendly highways. Not B as in you and I be friendly. B as in bzz, bee friendly highways, and another 5 million for the salmon. What? Pollinator friendly practices on roadsides and highways. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing here. We got calls at 303-696-1971. As always, we're going to honor the callers. Don, you're on 710 KNUS. Don, what do you think?
Well, good morning. You know your name, George, where it came from, right?
Oh, it came from my dad.
Okay. The name, not why you were given for George. Never mind. Earth worker.
Tiller of the soil is what I was told.
Yeah, earth worker.
Love it. I'm a man of the dirt.
No, that's
I'm a grower. I'm an agrarian.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good thing.
Amen.
It comes back from Greece. It's
I'll take it.
interesting when you look up people's names. I looked mine up, and unbelievably, it's a Scottish Gaelic, Donald.
And?
About 13th century.
What's it mean?
World ruler.
World brewer?
Ruler.
Oh, well, hello, Don. That's a pretty good one.
It's Donald to you, Earth Mover.
Yes, sire. So what do you think about all this stuff, man?
Well, I think it's, the United States in decline, that's for sure. Craziness on steroids. Too many people in positions that are able to, they're either elected or appointed that we didn't pay enough attention to. Complacency in who has been the candidates and people voting for, and, the crap in the news.
Don, don't you get a sense, though, that this is bigger than the last couple of years? Like, I have come around lately to the idea that those who want to see us become far more socialist, much more like Europe and other countries that are cradle to grave people, they have spent 2 generations of students now inculcating in them a belief that they're owed something, that they deserve something, that they have a right to something. And they continue every year to add one more expectation on behalf of their fellow man. And now here we are with Sheri Peif's article on family. And it's like, oh my God. And how did people vote for this garbage?
Well, you got to remember there's a lot of reasons they feared Trump.
And what does that have to do with the family thing?
Well, everything, because his policies, he wasn't one of these people that go along with all this crap. He was a roadblock in this big plan they've got, and this is all by design. The collapse of our empire, the destruction of the nuclear family. You said 100%. Socialist country, and there's going to be the people that have it, and then there's going to be the rest of us, and there's going to be no gray area in the rest of us. We're going to be one group eventually if they have their way. Hopefully, someone will emerge in some sanity, and I don't know what it's going to take, but I called to ask you what your opinion was on Congress recommending to the DOJ. It appears that they hold Trump accountable for breaking some laws on their quote insurrection.
Yeah, a couple thoughts. One, I really don't care what any legislative body thinks is a crime or isn't a crime in terms of referring things to either the AG, the DA, or the DOJ. I appreciate that they could say, hey, look, here's the fruits of our investigation. Make of this what you will. I get that, but I really don't care what their opinion is. They're not elected to weigh in on things like that. If they want to impeach him, impeach him. If not, just move on with the information. But I'm split, Don. I'll be honest with you. As a career prosecutor, I am split on the idea that no person should be above the law. And if they violated the law, we shouldn't care whether they're running against Joe Biden again or not. And yet at the same time, this thing is so wrapped around with politics and implications for the future. And is this the new norm that now the next Congress is going to go after former President Biden? And then is this the new expectation? It gives us a very political banana republic feel to us. So I'm very sensitive to that. I'm not sure what the right answer is. I don't want to shrug and say no harm, no foul here, because I don't know that that's the right answer. But can you imagine the circus that would, and the divisions that would be caused in America by pursuing him based off of the House controlled, the Democrat controlled House's recommendations on charges? I don't know, man. I mean, this is where the Attorney General has to make his money.
How much faith do you have in Merrick Garland?
I don't know him. Okay. So do I get that he could be influenced by politics? Yes. I'm not going to already take the blue pill and decide that this guy's in the bag for Biden or anyone else and that he'll be corrupt. I'm not going to do that. But this is a very, very difficult position for a public prosecutor to be in. I think it's harder for him to be in it as an appointee of the president, who may be the political opponent of the guy he prosecutes, than it is for an elected DA. Just think it's different than that.
Do you think Merrick Garland has done his job?
Don't know
the amount
yet.
of people that he hasn't. When they were going after Kavanaugh's house, okay?
I'd love to know more about what happened with that case. I just don't.
Well, first of all, you're not allowed to go do that in front of anybody on the Supreme Court.
Right.
And as the Attorney General, and it's a federal offense, why weren't these people dealt with?
I
mean,
don't
that
know
alone,
what happened to him. That's the thing, Don. Do you know what happened?
Nothing happened to him. Nothing.
I don't
happened to
know.
him.
I just don't know.
Well, George, I live in a different world with this. The time I spend and stuff is different than you. You're
a ruler. I'm working the earth, man. I don't have the time to do the things you've done.
You know, it's tough to be a plebe.
Believe me, there is honor in plebism. Don, listen, forgive me. Billy's given me the gotta go thing. Don, Merry Christmas to you. Thanks as always for getting us kicked off and calling in. If you got thoughts on that, give us a call at 303-696-1971. I'm going to cut away for a break right after I tell you about something pretty awesome here that you can do. Have you ever thought about giving your house, by the way, a Christmas present or Hanukkah present or whatever present? You can't put it under the tree, but you can put it near the tree. And that's your kitchen countertop and your bathroom countertop. In fact, celebrate your house on Christmas by upgrading the interior. And the best place to go is Mitch Floria at the Art of Granite. Hell, I'm sure you can even go find one of those giant bows that are all on all the Lexus commercials that you and I will never be able to afford, the his and her cars. By the way, as a complete aside, what universe are those people in? Nonetheless, get the bow, put it on the countertop. And this guy wants your business, not just for the dollar, but for the relationship and for the satisfaction it brings you and everybody in your home. Here's how he'll prove it. It's not just the customer service part. And of course, he's the craftsman and he's an expert on this. And he can bend substances to his will and your imagination, whether it's the granite, the marble, the fill in the blank. Guy can do it. But here's what he'll do to close the deal for you. He will say, if you mention KNUS and me, George, at the time that you hook up with him, and my advice is go drive out and see their showroom at 6th Avenue in Colfax. It's the best thing going. You go on in there, you can see everything life-size, smaller. You can touch it, feel it, see how it fits against this, that, and the other. No pressure, but I promise you this. You go out there and see it, you about a 95% chance you close the deal with Mitch. Here's the deal. You mention us. He gives you the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop purchase. Or if you're only doing one of the countertops, and that's cool, he'll give you the sink for free with the kitchen countertop or bathroom countertop package. Check him out at artofgranite.com, artofgranite, GRANITE.com. Granite has a T in it. Or call him on the phone that rings in his pocket, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. Man, that is Christmas right there. I am now going to, during the break, George Brauchler on The George Show, go look at the SNL skit where it was words to this, but it was like, dong go the bells, oh my God, the bells. Oh, la, la, la. We're going to find that. We're going to figure out a way to play that. Listen, we have knocked out here the second of 4 hours with you this morning on the return show, I suppose, after a little bit of time off on the radio, and I'll be with you for the rest of the week, and then starting on Tuesday for, I don't know, infinity, at least till the Army sends me away again. And that will be sometime in January to a place called the Middle East, just for a little bit. But we'll be with you, Billy and I, 6 to 10 a.m. all that time. When we come back, we are trying to line up an interview with, and I think it's going to happen, Kristi Burton Brown. As you may have heard, Kristi, who is a frequent guest on the show, she is the chair of the Colorado GOP. Upcoming elections in the new year for who is going to take over the helm. Kristi has said, I think I've done plenty here for the last couple of years, and we're going to talk with her about the decision for that, the way forward, other things related to that, all of that. I'm not volunteering her to take calls, but if you text in questions at the app or at 710knus.com, I'll do my best to filter through them and fit those into a conversation that we have with Kristi, who's going to give us some of her chilly morning here. And then I do still want to get to this topic on Stanford. There is some crazy stuff going on with a accepted language guide. You may have heard something about this. It is nuts. It is bonkers. You can't even say nuts or bonkers anymore. We'll talk about it when we come back. But first, Kristi Burton Brown right here on The George Show, 710 KNUS. I love it. George Brauchler here on The George Show. Billy doing his magic behind the glass there. You're listening to The George Show. We have crested over into the back half of Thursday's Frigid Show. We are going to, and Billy, I forgot to tell you this. We got to call KBB. Normally KBB calls in, but I imagine this is a function of her being incarcerated. No, I'm kidding. That's not true. We're going to have Kristi Burton Brown on here. As you may remember, Kristi, the 2-year chair of the GOP, has done some really strong things in that position, but also, and I think admittedly, we did not fare super well at the polls. And that has resulted in widening gaps of representation between Dems and Rs in the General Assembly, both on the state Senate side and on the House side, where they have supermajority control over there. I mean, like, they are, I think, a Senate seat away from being able to override a Polis veto, which I think he would love, by the way. I think that he would love to be able to veto stuff and have them have to override him. I just think that's better for him than almost anything at this point. But there's going to be an upcoming election here, and it is going to be for the future, at least for the next 2 years, of the chair of the party. And our next guest, who is gracious enough to give us some of her time on this morning, Kristi Burton Brown, is not going to be running for that office. Kristi, thanks for joining us.
Of course, George. Thank you.
First off, are the kids out of school now? You're a Douglas County person. Are they all home now?
So we actually homeschool, and so they,
So you have class today?
We'll make them do some school close to Christmas, but they get tons of time off other parts of the year.
So there's no snow day when you're homeschooled. Oh my God.
Not really. It's sad.
What are you doing to these
I was
kids?
homeschooled too, so I know how it goes, and it makes you strong.
How old are they?
They're 12 and 9.
Oh my gosh. And are you planning on homeschooling through high school?
Currently, yes, that would be our plan.
That is impressive. That's an amount of patience there. And by the way, do you divide it up, you and your husband, or are you the only teacher? Do you have other help? How do you do that?
So I'm not, thankfully. My husband is great. He's so good at math. I prefer words. He prefers numbers. So we do divide it up. And then also we both have parents around. They go to a class as well that where they have other teachers. So it's actually a pretty diverse program how we do it with them. And it works really well for us.
That's super cool. That's probably another pull on your time. You've made the decision to not seek re-election to the chair of the party. Talk to us about the process you went through to get there. Last time I spoke, I imagine you'd thought about it. You'd probably talked about it with your family, but you hadn't yet come up with a final answer. Talk to us about what that was like.
Sure. Yeah, my family and I have been talking about it and talking to some other people who I trust as well. And you always have good advice. And I think, the question after any election, George, as you know, you've been through multiple election cycles too, is you just have to ask yourself, where could I be most effective fighting for the cause that we all believe in, conservative values, the Republican Party. And I think the answer for me is going back to work in policy for the next couple of years. I think that'll be a way where I can be more effective. And certainly if whoever gets elected to be chairman next wants my help, I'll be there. I think we need stability in the party still. I believe in our party, but I think I can get more done working in policy for the next couple of years.
How does that manifest itself? Where do you go to start working on policy, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so I'll probably wait to say some of that until I actually have signed a contract.
Oh, got it.
But I will specifically work in education policy. I think as I've traveled around the state as chairman, that is one thing I've heard so much from parents and people everywhere across the state. Whether your kids are in the public school system, whether they're not, whether you're a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or have kids yourself, people are just really concerned about our kids. They want more school choice. They want parental rights. They want more options. And we talked about that in our commitment to Colorado. Our candidates talked about it consistently. And so I think working in policy on education, we can find a way as Republicans to go deliver on that, on what people really want across the state in a way that Democrats aren't doing.
It's hard to imagine someone who would be a stronger fighter for school choice than someone who's actually made that choice for their family. So that makes a lot of sense to me. let me ask you still about the party stuff. You've done the chair now for 2 years. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be 2 years in March, but yes.
Talk to us about what the things are that you think are the biggest wins, or the things that you're most proud of where you've put the party up to this point and that you're going to hand it off.
Sure. Well, I mean, George, I think one thing that we promised to do was to turn the party into a service-oriented organization where our candidates really felt like they could come to the party and get help, where our county chairman really felt like they had a direct line to the state chairman. And that's something I really believe we've done. If you talk to our candidates and our chairmen across the state, I believe they would tell you that, and they have told me that they really felt like my staff and myself, that we were, and Priscilla and Marilyn, we were accessible to them, and we did what they asked and gave them our time and our effort. That would be one. We also did set some fundraising records, so we were able to fundraise a lot of money and get people to believe in our candidates and in our plan. Obviously, results of the election were still very disappointing, but we were able to put more money than usual behind, especially our legislative candidates. And then the last one I would say, George, just to keep it somewhat brief, is our messaging on our commitment to Colorado. That was unique as a state party to come out and say, here's what Colorado Republicans look like, here's what we would deliver on. And our candidates really united around that message and did an excellent job pushing it across the state.
Now, the tougher question is the other side of that coin. And I would say no legitimate leader can occupy a position of any stress, of any importance, and not come away with lessons learned and things like, man, I wish I had done that a little bit differently if I'd have known this. And I would say the only leader who doesn't regret some decisions is the leader that made no decisions, right? I mean, it just happens. And I can think of, I can think of a truckload as DA where I'm like, well, should have done that differently, whether it was personnel or policy or even individual cases. I'm not shy about it. I imagine you aren't either. If there were a couple decisions or lessons learned, the things you might have done differently given the information that you've gathered since being in charge, what would those be?
Sure. No, I think a couple things specifically. I think I wish we had put, and of course, sometimes this takes money or national money, but I wish we had put more people on the ground earlier in specific districts of the state. We had a great ground effort the last month and a half, but I think I wish we had been able to do it in some districts even earlier. And then I think too, there had been I wish there was a better way to combat the Democrats up on TV constantly saying every single one of our candidates were extremists who wanted to take away your rights and threaten democracy, which are complete lies. But I think that's what voters bought. So finding a way to counter that effectively, I wish.
There becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy on a lack of funds, because lack of funds beget losses, which encourage or at least discourage folks from giving more money, especially your bigger, more institutional-like contributors. And so it becomes sort of this vicious spiral downhill. One thing,
well, and you need national money here in Colorado too, because of our campaign finance limit.
Okay, so
you're not also.
Someone texted in and asked about the national thing. They said, ask KBB, did the dissatisfaction with the national chair weigh in on her decision?
No, I wouldn't make it's a valid question, but I wouldn't make my decision based on the national party. I'm looking here at Colorado and where I can be most effective here. And I will say the national party gave us some money, not everything we asked for, and not everything when we were promised it, but they still were very engaged in a number of ways that I'm very appreciative of. And I've had conversations about the national party jumping in earlier in CD8 in particular, which is what we were promised, and I think should have happened sooner than it did. And I believe it will in 24 after some conversations we've had.
It is tougher to find silver linings when everyone just looks at the L's and the W's, right? But if you look at how some of the targeted, in fact, maybe all of the targeted state Senate seats that we thought we were going to get some of these, right? Anywhere from 1 to 8 or 10 or whatever. If you look at how those candidates performed versus the rest of the field, they crushed the rest of the Republican field. They still lost. But if you're looking for some indication that we were on the right path, even if we hadn't gotten into the end zone yet, that's one of them.
Oh, yes. No, I've seen those same numbers you've seen, George. And it's actually pretty incredible how much better our legislative candidates were. That is exactly where a lot of the party's money was invested. and where a lot of the soft money was invested as well, as far as I understand. Whereas in those races, and they were significantly running quite a bit higher than some of our statewide candidates, which does mean, yes, that kind of messaging is effective. It does move voters. It just couldn't overcome the wide difference between, our top candidates and the Democrats' top candidates. I think, unfortunately, a lot of Coloradans believe the lies that Jared Polis tells them. He uses Republican messaging, George, which says he'll save people money, make us safer. He specifically started talking like that after we put out our commitment to Colorado, and people believed him because he has millions to back it up, and that's difficult to compete against.
Well, and Adam Frisch ran as a Republican against Lauren Boebert out in the third, so that they know the messages that work. Question, without attribution or blame, is the Republican label toxic in Colorado right now?
I don't think I would go that far, but I think, I wouldn't say our brand is toxic, but I would say that the national brand often overcomes what you try to do in a state. Obviously, we tried, and when I say we, I mean our candidates, from local levels up, tried to say, as Colorado Republicans, here's how we're different. Here's what we believe in. We're solution oriented. We're going to proactively go seek solutions that help working families and people. But when you have a national brand, I think still your state focus can be drowned out. And I do think we saw that happen. We saw the Democrats capitalize on, national people and issues and brands instead of really competing about what we were talking about. And I think that did hurt us.
When you look at the decision-making process, and this one's probably a little more personal, and I know ego, okay, I've got buckets full of this stuff around me all the time. How much of the decision was impacted by a desire to say, in essence, screw you, I know I did a good job, and I'm going to get us the rest of the way here, and I'm going to win this thing back and prove that I should be the leader of this party?
That's a great question. I think you're right that anyone who's in leadership, you usually don't choose to be in leadership if you don't think you can help people win. But I think you also, if you're in leadership, you care about the people that you're working with, that you're working for. And I think that's probably one of the harder pieces for me is I have just grown to love so many Republicans across the state, so many of our leaders in districts and our candidates. And so, I think, as we all do, I personally felt their loss, even though it wasn't my name on the ballot. And so I think choosing to work in a different arena instead of being party chair again is sad in a way, because I want to keep fighting with these same people. I want to be with them. I want to be in the trenches with them. And so I think maybe, that certainly was something I thought about quite a bit. But still, George, even thinking about those people and how much I care about them, I still think the best way for me to get more done is to go work in policy and help all of us that way.
There was an event that took place in the parking lot across from GOP headquarters, and there was, I don't know, I've heard varying accounts, but roughly 100-ish so of activists and people who got up and said some really extreme things, Kristi. I mean, I heard words, I watched the whole thing on Facebook, and I just couldn't believe that we were talking about other Republicans, but it was treachery, traitor. I mean, traitor's a big one. Traitor's a fighting word. Even in 2022, it's like traitor, pardon me, by people, by the way, who've never stuck their hand up to take an oath to put on the uniform to go over it. Nonetheless, traitor, treachery, some personal attacks on you, an invocation of your name in a lot of negative ways. When you hear those things, what does that do to your decision making? And then let me throw in the other piece too, your spouse. Don't know him well enough to know. I just know me. And if someone said that about a member of my family or my spouse, I'd want to go kick somebody's keister.
Sure, George. Well, and I think, I heard part of it, but I did not actually listen to a whole press conference.
You didn't miss anything.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I have things to do. And so I didn't do that. And I heard enough of it or enough about it to actually tell my husband that he shouldn't listen to it.
That's a good call.
So I think that's probably a good choice. Yeah. Because, I mean, he's great. He definitely would, obviously he's on my side and he loves me, and I appreciate that very much. George, I think in general, though, people have the right to say whatever they want. We live in, a country with free speech. That's fine. I'm not too concerned about what they say. People who want to talk like that don't make my decision for me. I have a lot of advisors and people who I trust across the state, and those are the people I'm going to listen to. And I made my decision based on what's best for my family and for really helping our cause, George. I think that's what's central to me, is not, oh, what does this person want and that person want and this person say. I think you can get really distracted by the noise, be it really good noise, people asking me to run and do things, and then people saying, oh, you better not do it. I think you can get really distracted by the noise. So I think you have to pray, you have to talk to your family and the people you trust most and say, how can I take who I am and what I believe in and fight for our cause in the best way going forward? And that's, I think, the right way to make a decision.
Simply by virtue of being elected party chair and running the party, you are instantly transitioned from grassroots activist conservative to establishment. That's just how it happens. Once you win office, you're establishment. It's just how it has to be. I know there have been divisions in our party for a long time. You know that too. I don't think I've ever seen as stark of divisions and contrast between different parts of the Republican Party as I have right now. And maybe it's a reflection of how loud that squeaky wheel is out there. But my sense is that we are a party divided. We're not even close to reconciling. And there are things that you and I can't talk about on the radio that we're aware of that are going on that just tell me we're in for some kind of, a reimagining, an awakening, a rebuilding of sorts. In part, is your decision when you say things like, I can be more effective in this area, is it an acknowledgement, and I don't mean this in a negative way, that, listen, I'm just not going to be the person that's able to bridge all these gaps for whatever reason, right or wrong, fair or unfair, that's got to go to someone else who needs a shot to try to bind whatever wounds are perceived to exist?
George, you're full of great questions. As always, no surprise there. But I think rather than that, I do think there's a perception that if you are a county or a state or a district chairman, it is up to you, to unite everyone. You better make everyone play on the same page. And I think it's important to realize that our party is actually full of people who really believe in free will and the First Amendment. Like, our party is not full of people who are robots who want to march in line and follow a machine like the Democrats do. So it's actually not something that I really think one person as a chairman can do, because our people don't respond to, like, I demand you get in line, you do these things, or even if that's what you mean, but you say it nicely. It's actually just not what Republicans do. And does it hurt us that we don't? I think it does. But does it also show that we are the people who still believe in that First Amendment and believe in our free will and want to get out there and say what we think? And that's healthy for a country. And so, George, I think it's really up to people in the Republican Party to decide individually. They're not going to do what some leader tells them to do. They have to decide as adults. Are you going to get together and play together as a team and fight the real enemy, which is the Democrat Party and the liberals and progressives who are destroying our state? Or do you want to keep eating each other alive? And unfortunately, as much as I'd love to say one leader can come in and change all that, I think because of, by nature, who we are as Republicans, it's an individual decision we have to make for ourselves.
I have heard a handful of names thrown around already of folks that are going to run for state party chair. One of them, Casper Stockham, is going to be on here later in the show. I've had people pinging me. And I just want to be clear. I am not running for state GOP chair. I'm not as tough as Kristi Burton Brown is. You guys with your incendiary words would make me cry, and I can't do it. You do it with a smile on your face while people are throwing punches, whether it's Hank Schwanger or any of the others. I couldn't do it. I would lose my mind. There would be a crime committed, and it would be the end of a budding radio career. Nonetheless, if you were going to give it, and then I'll let you get back to your world, if you were going to give a piece of advice to whoever it is that takes over this position from you, what's that advice?
Yeah, I think whoever the next state party chairman is, there's a few things I think you have to do. I do think you have to be an optimistic person who mixes optimism with reality. Be honest with people, be that the donors, the volunteers, the candidates, about our situation in Colorado and what is possible in the next cycle. And at the same time, be optimistic about our platform and our values and what we believe in and why we're fighting for people. I think a leader has to have that mix of reality and optimism. And I think you have to have a real plan forward and say, here's where we are in Colorado. Here's what our demographics are. Here's what our districts look like. Where can we find our victories? Where do we need to build? And I think scrapping everything and starting over, as people are so prone to doing, doesn't benefit us. So I think have a real eye on, hey, what went wrong? What can I fix? What can I change? But where do we need to keep people, keep relationships, and keep building? So I think looking at it that way would be very helpful for the next chairman.
Kristi Burton Brown, in many ways, a thankless task that I will thank you for. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. And if I have any influence at all, given my powers at Salem, please give your kids a snow day today.
Okay. For you, George. Thank you. I will. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. See you, Kristi. We'll talk to you again. That's Kristi Burton Brown. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break here, but not until I tell you, we were talking about people with values and commitment and all that. It is such a perfect segue. And you know where I'm going with this. Guy named Dan Caplis. Now, you could call him Danta Claus. I just made that up. No, that's not even actually part of the read. Dan Caplis is the guy that even during the holiday season, they don't stop taking calls to help because that's what they're about. The things you'll never get to know about Dan, because he will not talk about them, and I think he would barely acknowledge them, are all of the philanthropic, behind the scenes kind of, I'm saying this, work in the soup kitchen kind of stuff that every once in a while you hear passing reference to it from Dan on the radio somewhere, but he just doesn't talk about it the way that you really get to understand that this is a guy who is committed to his fellow man. And when I say that, I mean not just from trying to do good works in his private life. That's his public career. That's what he has chosen to do, is to try to help those in need. So if you or someone that you love, because of someone else's negligence or recklessness or whatever, has suffered just a life-altering, a quality of life-altering injury, then you got to give Dan a call. His partner, Mike Kane, former Marine, Babar Wahid, who I've done a trial with, wonderful trial attorney, hardcore dude, local kid, love him. I say kid. That guy could be in his late 30s now. If you're listening, Babar, screw you for being that young. Get older, for God's sake. But he's fantastic. Amy, Megan, everybody else they have on the staff there, they think like Dan does, that their first job isn't to make money. First job is to help. And so if you need help, you pick up the phone and you call Dan at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or visit dancaplislaw.com. Caplis is C-A-P-L-I-S. dancaplislaw.com. When we come back, happy to take any of your reactions here at 303-696-1971 and your texts as well right here. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
It's really cold. It's really cold. Oh, yeah. I'm ruining this shirt. It's so cold. It's just absolutely awful. George Brauchler with you here on the George Show 710 KNUS. My thanks to Kristi Burton Brown for taking time out of her day, which I would have said is teaching the kids, but she conceded right here, and this is a confession I had not heard her make before, that it's her husband who is clearly the most patient man in the world for two reasons. One, the ability and willingness to try to homeschool his kids. I don't have it. I could get through the first hour, like this is where we're going to keep our pencils and erasers and stuff. And then there would be a whole lot of, I just said, it would go crazy. But the other thing is, this is a guy, and I think the best advice Kristi gave him was, please don't watch the Facebook thing with the crazy people in the back of the truck saying things about me personally, because that would make any spouse want to go out and hurt someone. And maybe that's not the Christian response. I don't care. I just think that is a visceral thing that takes place. Nonetheless, my thanks to Kristi Burton Brown, who will not be standing for attention as the party chair. I imagine she'll be at the meeting. She's got some business to take care of. I think it's in March. It'll be interesting to see who takes over. One of the people who's thrown their hat in the ring early is a guy named Casper Stockham. You have heard Casper on the radio before. We're going to have him on in the 9 o'clock hour, ask him some questions about what he wants to do, what the answers are moving forward. But in the meantime, I do want to tell you about something. You may have seen reference to this story somewhere else. I saw it and I thought, this simply can't be true. There's a university out there. It's called Stanford. It's one of the top, depending upon how you're ranking them and on what criteria, top 5, some say top 3, top 5 universities in the United States of America. And they recently had something issued from them, and it's been a long process to get here. It's been a long process. But they issued something from their IT community. And I'm at the website right now, and it's called Taking Action, Stanford Technology Community Continues to Move the Needle on Representation. And it talks about how in the aftermath of the George Floyd thing, there's an organization here, there's a CIO council, and there's a People of Color in Technology. That's Pocket, I guess, POC-IT, and they published a statement of solidarity and commitment to action. And again, progressives love to use the term action and progressive and all this other stuff. Words matter to them, and here's how you know. They came up with a harmful language in technology effort. And I'm reading it to you from the website. The Elimination of Harmful Language Initiative, EHLI, because everything has to be an acronym that you can't pronounce or spell, is a multi-year effort that identifies and aims to address language on all technology web pages and in the code written across the CIOC organizations. As part of this initiative, the phrase racist terminology in technology was clarified from the original commitment and clarified to, quote, harmful language in technology. And so there's a content style guide that there's a link to, but you and I can't get to it unless you have some kind of an account with Stanford. They keep their content style guide hidden. What they did not keep hidden was the actual product of their Elimination of Harmful Language Initiative stuff. It has been released. It is available on the internet. I found a link to it at the Wall Street Journal. And this thing talks about an effort to go through and I guess make language, quote unquote, safe for everyone. And so this is what it says. The goal of the Elimination of Harmful Language Initiative is to eliminate, thus baked into the title, Elimination of Harmful Language, many forms of harmful language, including racist, violent, and biased language in Stanford websites and code. I didn't realize code had racist language in it. It says the purpose of this website is to educate people about the possible impact of the words we used, and they suggest alternatives. Folks, you got to go look at this thing. It is fascinating. They have it broken down based on all of these different subgroups. For instance, and they're alphabetical, the first one is ableist. Ableist language is language that is offensive to people who live with disabilities and or devalues people who live with disabilities. The unintentional use of such terms further the belief that people who live with disabilities are abnormal. Here's a disability, and here's the list. And I've just picked out a few of these things because I think they're fascinating for conversation, and I'd love to get your input on these. But more than that, I want to brainstorm what other words are ableist, racist, sexist, whatever they are, that have to go. We are quickly moving to, folks, if you haven't read 1984 in a while, holy smokes, man, it feels like we're right in the waiting room, right? We're in Orwell's waiting room for 1984. So instead of addict, consider using person with a substance use disorder. One, it's more letters. It's harder to tweet out that because you only have got the limited numbers. It says using person first language helps to not define people by just one of their characteristics. And that's the new thing now. It's been going on for a little bit. You're not this name or this title. You're a person with a. Now you'll see they shift around a bit on that, but let's go to another one. You can't use the phrase a blind study because it unintentionally perpetuates that disability is somehow abnormal or negative, furthering an ableist culture. Consider using the term masked study. Now listen, blind study doesn't further or perpetuate anything about a disability. It is literally making someone, putting someone in a position where they can't see this or take into consideration that. It is not a shot at blind people. It is literally depriving them of certain information to make the study more real, more, scientifically provable.
Wait, excuse me. Question back at the room here.
Yes, Billy in the back. Number one or number two?
What?
Sorry.
What? Yeah, I need the hall pass. I don't know the,
5 minutes or
yes,
10 minutes.
Exactly. What? I'm asking for the hunters here in Colorado.
Oh my God, hunting blind.
Yeah, what are we supposed to hide in now?
Billy, you've
and again
now, perfect.
It is supposed to hide you. It's supposed to make you blind from the ducks so they can't see you. What are we supposed to call it now?
Now a hunting mask.
Yeah,
because it's a mask study.
Maybe it's a eco-friendly hunter habitat. I don't know. It's something. This is ridiculous.
I love that you have already hit upon our first thing. Here's something else. The term crazy. Crazy is ableist language that trivializes the experiences of people living with mental health conditions. Can't even say disorder. Now, before you could say disorder. Remember that? A substance use disorder, not condition. You can't use it here. Consider using the alternative language is, instead of crazy, is surprising or wild.
No, surprising, not good. Because normally surprises are a good thing. This is not.
Oh,
no. It's you're not going to sit there and say, I bumped into this gentleman downtown and he surprised me with his mental. No, that's not going to happen.
Now, look, not all of these are garbage, because like some of these are like crippled. Instead, say person with a disability. Okay, I get that.
Absolutely.
I don't refer to my son as crippled. He's disabled. Yeah. Impaired or weakened, they said, is one. That seems to me to be a little negative.
Because it's not very fair to say, oh God, I think I've had too many scotches. I'm a little weakened. That doesn't work.
It's not even internally consistent. Here's an example. Instead of calling someone insane, you should call them, again, surprising or wild. Why not call them people dealing with insanity?
Yes, exactly. Yes. People, remember the homeless things? It's people experiencing insanity.
Yeah, people
That's
experiencing insanity.
Yeah, they're experiencing insanity, yes.
Here's another one. You can't call something lame. You now must call it boring or uncool.
Well, that's lame.
That is lame. Here's one. Oh God, get this, buddy.
Yeah.
OCD. You can no longer use the term OCD. They're recommending against it because it's ableist language that trivializes the experiences of people living with mental health conditions. Instead, now it's detail-oriented.
I can't wait to see. I'm going to put that on my next resume.
I am detail-oriented.
Detail-oriented. Yeah, that's not good.
You cannot use the phrase sanity check. Instead, use coherence check.
Really? Coherence check? I'm going to fail that every day. That's not fair. That is not fair at all.
This one may be a shot at me. You cannot call, and this is ageism. We've gone from ableism to ageism.
Okay.
Ageism is ageist language that singles out a person based on their age instead of their qualifications. Graybeard. You can't use the term graybeard anymore. Instead, use the person's name.
Pardon me? What?
What if it's Gandalf the Grey?
Exactly.
What do you do with that guy?
That's what do you do?
Just Gandhi?
I know.
Here's one, senile. Can't say senile. You say person suffering from senility. Again, I hearken back to insanity. Why isn't it a person experiencing insanity? And here's one, person suffering from senility. Why aren't they experiencing senility?
I'm going to go back to my middle school English
Yeah,
class.
okay. Yeah.
If someone is experiencing senility, they then are senile.
No, yeah, Billy.
They're experiencing it. They're in the moment.
You are doing violence to that person by identifying them
well, it's okay.
by that one trait.
Well, the nice part is they won't remember it in a couple of minutes anyway, so that'll be okay.
You know, you can't even have convicted felons anymore. They're called justice-involved people. Now, that's not in here yet, but we're going to get there.
That's like they remember the Avengers.
This is some of the craziest stuff ever, and it's coming out of Stanford. This isn't some whack job, small, super liberal college in the middle of Wisconsin somewhere.
It also isn't like, it's not like Fargo Community College for the betterment of humanity. It's not that. This is Stanford. This is a legit Ivy League. This is something where you want to have that piece of paper and you hang that diploma on your wall, and they're saying we can't say senile?
No, you can't. You can't. And I guess it's
that's crazy talk. Wait, I can't say that.
If you have multiple things,
yeah,
it's a person experiencing, and then you just run down the list.
Oh.
Senility, insanity, gas. I mean, whatever it is.
I need a checklist on my chest. That's what I need.
Now, there's also culturally appropriative. Culturally appropriative language misuses terms that hold meaning to a particular culture in a way that often lacks respect or appreciation. You knew this one was coming.
Yeah.
Bury the hatchet. You cannot use the term bury the hatchet. It's an appropriation of a centuries-old tradition among some North American indigenous peoples who buried their tools of war as a symbol of peace.
Well, let's not tell all those bars where we're throwing axes against the wall, because that's going to be a problem then. Just saying. If we're burying hatchets,
I don't understand how it's disrespectful to it.
I don't either. I mean, again, if that's what they did, and we're talking about burying the hatchet to put something to the end of something, coming to the conclusion, it seems to be very, very appropriate. Seems to be a very appropriate use of that term. And no one is using it offensively. I mean, we're not, oh, well.
Here's something. You can't call someone chief. Calling a non-indigenous person chief trivializes both the hereditary and elected chiefs in indigenous communities. Calling an indigenous person chief is a slur. Well, I get that last part.
I can get that. Yeah.
Get
the
that.
indigenous person, sure. But what then should we have called Dan Oates when he came in here to the studio?
Well,
police what? Police
a person experiencing leadership
yes, exactly.
or chiefdom.
Yeah,
or something.
I know. What do you possibly do?
This one hits really close to home, Billy.
Yeah. Yep.
Geronimo.
Uh-oh.
Geronimo was a famous leader and medicine man whose name is used today as a caricature of the brave warrior, often during, quote, macho pursuits. None. Here are the alternatives. None. Only used when discussing the historical figure. We have a guy here on staff who we almost all of us love.
Yes.
Named Geronimo.
Most of us, yes.
I mean, we call him Geronimo. That's not his real name.
Nickname, yeah.
His real name's Tonto.
Yeah.
But we call him, that's not really Tonto.
We didn't want to culturally appropriate it.
We call him Geronimo.
Yeah.
And now we've just culturally appropriated his name? Buddy,
yeah.
Here's another one. Guru. I use this all the time.
What? How is guru
You
wrong?
can't, because, and here's the truth of it. In the Buddhist and Hindu traditions, the word is a sign of respect. Using it casually negates its original value. You should use instead the term expert, subject matter expert, SME. I've done that. Primary leader, teacher, guide. And the other one
guru is so much fun to say.
It is, and it's easy. It's four. You want to tweet out guru. If you have to tweet out subject matter expert, you've lost half your tweet.
And it also seems to be appropriate. I mean, even though it is based on the religious person, it is still giving the person, when you're using it, the mantle of being an expert in that area. I don't.
Listen, our texters are again coming in with the way right here. It's not dead; it's living challenge. For people experiencing death.
Yes.
Here's one Navy chief, great one. George, what if my horse is lame? Well, you're gonna have that's a horse experiencing uncoolness.
Yes, uncoolness. Yes.
You can't do that. Political correctness has gone entirely too far, and I refuse to participate. Prepare to be offended. I think that's true. Leave it to Alexa.
That's right. Oh,
so
good.
pedophiles are mapped. This is true. minor attracted person. What is
I've
the
seen
new
that.
phrase for
Yeah.
serial killer?
Yep. Oh,
Life biased?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. Oh no. End of life planning specialist.
Oh,
There
you
we
know
go.
what?
That's exactly what it is.
Non-consensual euthanasia
Ooh.
practitioner.
Oh, that's really good. I like that one.
Yeah,
That is really good.
that's a NEP.
Yeah.
That's NEP right there. I'm not a
Yeah, I'm
serial
not.
killer.
Yeah.
I'm a nepper.
I'm a nepper. Yes.
Buddy, there's so much more of this. We can get to some of this. I got to cut away for a break, though. But can I do you and me a favor? And that is, in this holiday spirit, when you're thinking about how you're gonna do something, not just to make the individuals who you love and you know happy, but how you're going to make a bigger difference for the broader community. Can I ask you to again visit our friends at Step Denver? A couple weeks ago when we did that thing in their place out there in Denver, kind of over by Coors Field. It's a thing that affects you, man. I remember the folks that we talked to, the interviews. If you haven't listened to the podcast, go back and do it. But these are folks that are out there saving lives. They're not just, hey, do you need a warm place to stay before you get more money to go get your drink on? That ain't them. That's other groups. The reason they're able to do it their way, the right way, the way that works, is because they don't take any government money. Well, when you don't take government money, you got to get funded somehow. We did that great fundraiser. Turns out it did super well. They exceeded their, I think, last year's totals by a great chunk, a great percentage. I'm thrilled to be a part of that. Why don't you be a part of it this time in this way too? Your truck, your car, whatever your vehicle is, if you donate that, just one truck, one car, one vehicle, provides enough funding for these folks to get another man off the streets and into a position where their lives, their souls can be saved. And this is the way that we go about doing it. Do you know that over 67 vehicles so far this year from KNUS listeners? That's a point of pride. Why don't we try to hit 80? I'd say 100, but maybe that's too crazy here in the last week. I'm sorry. That's to person dealing with mental disorder. Oh, I'm going to figure it out. Nonetheless, donate that thing. Easy, hassle-free, the tow, they fix up the car, they get it all sweet so that they maximize the value for their benefit and your own tax benefit. Give them a call at 303-296-9020, 303-296-9020, or visit them at stepdenver.org, stepdenver.org. It's probably the biggest Christmassy spirit thing you can do this year. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here on 710 KNUS, going right to the phone lines for what time we have left. Patrick, you have some thoughts on this? Go, my man.
Yeah, I do. Well, shortly, first of all, whenever a name is changed into another name, eventually that becomes a derogatory term.
Give me an example. Something
okay, well,
FCC compliant.
Okay, let's say a cripple, okay, no longer, okay, so you replace it with another word. Eventually that word becomes, you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay. And anyway, I call it about chief.
Yeah. Tell me about chief.
Yeah, well, chief is a French word. It was given to the American Indians, the chief, the chef. You have a chef in cooking and all that kind of stuff. And when I was in the French Army, I remember we had corporal chef, sergeant chef. So I don't see what the problem is with that word.
That's interesting. I wonder, there must be some Native American, probably changes from tribe to tribe, but there must be some Native American title for that role. If it wasn't chief, if the French gave us chief, it must be something else.
Well, yeah, in their own language, but the French designated, the head of the tribe was the chief.
Buddy, that's very interesting. And you and I both know that there are two professional franchises about to lose their titles, and that is Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Braves, because you can't, that's according to this too, you can't use Brave either. Patrick, thank you so much, man. Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for listening and calling in. When we come back, Casper Stockham, maybe he can add to our list of words that Stanford wants to change. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. I feel like this is Kanye West's version. Is that right? It's Ye's version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town right here on the George Show, 710 KNUS. Happy to bring up on the VIP line a person currently experiencing some mental disorder because he wants to become the chair of the state GOP party. He's no stranger to anyone, and that's Casper Stockham. Sir, thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Man, baby, it's cold outside.
It is cold outside. I don't think you can say baby anymore because that's ageist. Baby is an age. It's a person experiencing extreme youth or something like that. It can't be
something like that. Yeah.
Casper, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to be a part of this thing?
Well, what I want to do is I want to save our state and save our party and get us back to sanity again. And I believe I have a plan to do it. I think your audience knows me a little bit, but for the past 10 years, George, I've been serving the party as a candidate, as a campaign manager, as a campaign worker, as a precinct worker, as an ex-com board member, as a conservative advocate in the community, as a candidate training organization, and I have the battle scars to prove all that. And I believe I've observed this thing for 10 years, and I keep seeing opportunities that we are not taking advantage of. And because of that, I believe is why we're in the situation we're in right now.
What is that situation?
We have a PMI problem. PMI stands for purpose. We lack a focused purpose. Our message is off, our image is off. And because of that, we are losing across the board statewide. So we have to enhance our PMI, and that's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight, obviously, but it's something we have to be focused on in order to improve our situation.
Well, listen, we talked with Kristi Burton Brown at the top of the last hour to have a conversation.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I heard that.
And I get it. I understand. I imagine there's probably some more conversation we could have with her, really trying to pull back the layers here on the decision that was made. But if I'm Kristi in that situation, given how much poison has been dumped on top of her for a whole bunch of different things from the loudest parts of the party, I'm not sure why anybody wants to sign up for that. I mean, the paycheck is not nothing, but it ain't enough to make up for the kind of heartache you'd go through, especially someone who feels like she brings more to the table. But from your standpoint, Casper, there might be a little bit of a honeymoon if you pull this thing off, a little honeymoon period. But given the nature of our party, we have got people, some of the loudest people in the party, and you know them, you saw them there behind the boot barn right there by the GOP, who if you deviate in any way from what they believe to be the only acceptable path for a conservative, you are instantly establishment, you are instantly part of the problem, and then all of a sudden out come traitor, treachery, all this other stuff. How do you deal with that?
Well, I deal with it the same way I've been dealing with it for 10 years, but I've been called a lot worse personally, but people want to be heard. Okay. They want to feel like they have a voice. They want to feel like people are paying attention to them. And I think I have the temperament to, for that to happen. So I, every time I listen to Republicans on social media or even at a luncheon or breakfast, everybody's pointing fingers at the other side. So the quote unquote establishment is pointing fingers at the grassroots. The grassroots are pointing fingers at the establishment. And we need everybody to be a part of this experience, right? We can't win elections without the grassroots, and we can't win elections without the quote unquote establishment. So we have to figure out a way how to come together. Otherwise, we don't win anyway. So I'm just going to try to appeal to those common sense folks, and I believe you're in that category, that say, look, I got it. Okay, we have to stop this name calling and stuff like that. Let's figure out common ground and let's move forward so we can start winning elections.
Now, when you talk about these challenges and having to do this, I get the getting heard part. I really do. I'm telling you from my vantage point, Casper, this isn't about being heard anymore. This is about being lockstep with that farthest right portion of the party. And I know you weren't part of this, and we talked about this on the radio, but the language that was used in the back of that truck by even members of the legislature, elected commissioners, and other party leaders and former party leaders, that's not a, hey, I'm not being heard. That's a, you are evil. You are the enemy. We heard warlike terms. I just don't know how you begin to bridge that gap. And frankly, given some of the things like Anil said and all that, how does anybody who's not part of Anil's inside clique right now ever sit down with him again and say, we can work together based on the things that you said? How do you attract those people?
Well, I would readily admit that this last cycle has been more adversarial than it's been in the past. But this is, it's just growing to this point. I can speak to the Anils of the world. I believe I can speak to the establishment as well and say, look, there are some common things that we have. We have a common enemy, right? We have to get back to Reagan's 11th commandment. And if you're 80% on my side, then you're an advocate, not an adversary. So I just have to keep drilling that home.
That part got set on fire in the back of that truck. And how do you deal with the folks that want to label as rhinos or establishment or?
I deal with them the same way I deal with people who call me all kinds of names as well. I can work with anyone, even someone who's called me a personal name that we can't mention on the radio. Yeah. I can work with that person if we are focused on the goal. And the goal is to get us back to being viable again, get us back to winning elections again, and get us back to saving our state again. And right now, we are not there. At the end of my first term, there are three things that will definitely be happening. One, we will have a higher voter registration. It'll be going up instead of down.
How come?
We will have
How are you going to do that?
Youth. I'm going to do it by focusing on voter registration and focusing on getting more youth involved with our party and getting more minority participation in our party. Those three things will drive up voter registration. I have a program I call Operation OUS, and OUS stands for Outreach, Unite, Support, and Train. We do those four key things, and we start to increase our youth involvement, minority outreach involvement, and those will get the voter registrations. And we're not doing that right now, by the way.
What do you do to sell GOP registration to that next generation? I'm using my own kids as an example. I mean, they've grown up at a period of time where there is a certain toxicity that has been associated with the Republican Party, more so in Colorado than probably anywhere else, right? And fair or unfair, that's just, how do we win them back? What do you do about that?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I've listened to many of the interviews with your daughter. So I know what you're talking about. So I am actively reaching out to young Republican groups right now, and we are going to launch a program I'm calling Colorado Freedom Corps. And that Freedom Corps is going to be manned by the youth, and they're going to be going out and doing good works in the community. But they're going to be wearing the GOP banner at the same time. So young individuals like your daughter and others, they are not impressed with the Republican Party because they don't see us doing anything other than complaining or trying to block stuff from happening. We don't have enough PMI. Our PMI is not high enough, right? We have to have more engagement. We have to have more of a purpose to our party than just winning elections, which is important. But we win elections by helping more people. We help more people, we're going to start winning more elections.
What do you do for the folks that say we need to and these folks were in that same truck that you took to the back of too to talk from the microphone. The people that said we need to purge the party of rhinos. First off, what's your definition of a rhino? And two, do we need to purge the party of them?
At this point, I'm confused as to what a rhino is, George, because I was called a rhino just for helping Heidi Ganahl in her governor's race.
That's ridiculous.
I was called a rhino.
Ridiculous.
So I don't even know what a rhino is anymore at this point. But I have heard both sides again say we need to purge. We need to purge the grassroots. We got to purge the establishment. And I'm saying if we get rid of any numbers, we continue to lose. We cannot afford to purge anyone that is 80% on our side. So I'm going to say the same message to the grassroots that I say to the establishment. You guys have to get over this situation you have right now with fighting each other. We've got to come together in a way that is unprecedented, to where we are focused on the 80%. And we can argue and fuss and fight about the 20%, but we got to focus on the 80 so we can start winning elections. George, if Kamala Harris can call George, whatever his name is,
Joe Biden. Yeah.
Joe Biden, if she can call him a racist on the national TV debate stage, and he makes her VP, are you telling me we're not smart enough to come together on 80% of what we agree on?
Speaking of smart enough and some purity issues, should a person be the next chair of the GOP who does not believe the election in 2020 was stolen?
It really doesn't matter. And the reason why I say that is because we should always be willing to question government and question operations that happen. Now, whether they are gold standard or not, or whatever, we should be able to question everything, right? Reagan always talked about trust but verify. So if I can't verify it, I don't trust it. I want to be able to verify it. I want to have transparency in that process so that the people that are really focused on that, I want them to have some comfort that our system is functioning properly. So whether the election was stolen or not, dude, I have no idea. But here's what I do know. I do know that there's a lot of non-transparency happening in that process, and I want to make sure it's transparent.
I think scrutiny, I don't think anybody disagrees with scrutiny. I think at the end of the day, though, we're going to continue to be painted with that extremist label of an election denier and all that other stuff till we can figure out a way to get past buying into that. And I didn't see it this last election cycle. We saw that some of the comments that were made during the primary process, which was an effort to get through the GOP, came back to haunt people. It haunted Heidi. It haunted Eric Odland to an extent. I mean, it was the kind of thing that ended up being an issue. Now, were those the issues that cost us the election? I don't think so, but they certainly didn't help win over voters.
If we can't get over people calling us different names and stuff, if we can't get over that, then it's over anyway, because they're not going to stop calling us names. When I was growing up, my mom, if I came home and told my mother that somebody called me a name, she said, "Well, are you that?" I was like, "No." Okay, then what you worried about? Get on with your life. Do something more fruitful.
Here's just small proof while we're talking. Some text coming in and people have some questions and stuff. And someone said, the election was stolen, you rhino. I just presume that's here's I had enough money and I'm too darn, I would have gotten them to run for their money. Other people that are like, Casper's good at making acronyms. I don't even know what that means. And then someone was talking about our past topic. Someone wants to call in and ask questions about temperament and about the fighting and all the other stuff that's taking place inside the party.
There's no question that we're divided, George, but the solution is not to just wallow in that. The solution is to work towards bringing that together.
Well, I agree. No one's going to say we shouldn't bring folks together. It's the doing it that matters and how it gets done. And listening to those folks in the back of the truck. And if it was just a handful of 100 activists who came together to scream and yell, I'd be less concerned. But it was people like, the chair of one of the largest county parties. It was an elected commissioner. It was a guy who was a representative elect going to the legislature. I mean, these were not insignificant people. These were people who are active in the party and they're going to serve. And so when they say the things that they say, Casper, I worry that we're not there yet. I also worry that there's a faction of the party, some of whom are listeners here, who firmly believe that if we had just made more sweet love to Donald Trump in 2020 and 2022, that folks, the Coloradans would have voted for our candidates. I don't see any evidence of that anywhere in the state of Colorado?
Well, I'm telling you, I've been to luncheons and breakfasts and everything else that people are speaking at, and I've heard inflammatory comments about people on both sides. So it's not just people in the back of a pickup truck. There's people at breakfast and lunches that are saying similar things about the other side. So somebody has to stand in the middle, maybe with a bulletproof vest on or whatever, and say, look, you guys stop shooting at each other. We have more pressing problems. We have, we got this new egg dilemma that's going on. We got plastic bags, they're trying to take our plastic bags away, whatever, right? They're interfering with our children's education. There are more pressing issues that we can come together on. It takes a leader to step in and say, look, what's your thoughts on education? I bet you that both sides, by the way, of those two fighting factions, I bet you both sides would agree on education. So we should come together on that. We should find those things. 80% of what we believe in, we agree on. We can come together on those things. And that's what I'll be focused on as a chair. And I'm going to make sure that we are definitely bringing in youth and bigger back into our party, and also reaching out to the minority community as well.
Casper, and when's the election, by the way? I'm sure we'll have you on between now and then, but when's the big day? Do we know yet?
So it's in March. No, they haven't set a date yet, and that'd be up to Kristi and the board to figure that out. But it's going to be sometime in March. I think the bylaws state it has to be sometime in March. It has to be like the end of February to the 1st of April, sometime in there.
Well, man, if I was going to give you 30 seconds to sum it up for folks who may end up being in that meeting, because it's not all Republicans get a vote on this, right? It's a pretty select group of people from across the state. What do you tell them? Why you? Why not someone else?
Yeah, there's going to be about 500 plus voting members of the Central Committee who vote on the next leader of the Colorado GOP. We're in a critical time, and we have to stop this infighting. The Democrats are laughing at us right now because they have mastered the art of getting over it. They could just get over all kinds of names called back and forth for the common goal, which is winning. So we have to do more outreach. We have to unite. We have to do more supporting of candidates and counties. We have to do more training, and we have to come together. And I'm asking all Republicans right now, I'm doing this, and I'm asking all Republicans to do the same thing, is start donating $10 a month to the local county party organization, $10 a month, and $5 a month to the new GOP. If we start doing that, we will have enough revenue, money, to do all the outreach and other things we need to do to start.
Casper Stockham, he is officially a candidate for the state party chairmanship there for the GOP. Man, I know there'll be other candidates. They'll want to come on. We'll have a conversation with them too. And then maybe we'll figure out a way to get you guys to do some sort of thing. I don't know if it's a debate or something, but we'll try to get you on here. I know you're not shy of that. So thank you for calling in.
I would love that.
And
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can I get my website out?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm sorry. I should remember that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my website is Casper4, F-O-R, Colorado.com. That's Casper4Colorado.com. You will see a lot of the information I just shared on there. And I have a 17-page business plan that you can get access to as well. You just have to reach out to us through email.
Merry Christmas, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, George. Appreciate it.
That's Casper Stockham. He's going to be a candidate for state GOP chair here in March. They haven't picked the date yet. We'll get to know about that, and we'll let you know about it when it happens. Before I cut away for a break, I want to tell you about something you may be contemplating right now. Again, I follow this stuff every day when it shows up in my newsfeed, and that's what's going on in the real estate market. And it's interesting. The national numbers show that sales decreased, but then so did home values a little bit. This may be that perfect time to try to sell now while the dollars are high enough for you to get into that newly reduced price home of your dreams. You may have to do it. You may be moving. I don't know why. Maybe it's a business decision. Maybe it's a family decision. But if you're going to try to navigate these waters, do yourself a favor. Call Gay Ribble and Power Home Team Keller Williams Realty. Now, it's easy to find the website. That's gayhasthebuyers.com, Gaye hasthebuyers.com. No risk when you work with these folks because they've been doing this forever. Gay's been in the business for decades, grew up in this area. She knows how to get it done. She has seen all the market changes before. This one's really not that different at all. Ask her about her 100% asking price guarantee program. And isn't that the big difference maker? Someone who says, I promise to do X, and oh, by the way, I'll commit to it. And if I can't get it done, we'll figure out a way to pay for the house ourselves. We'll come to an agreed upon cash amount, or if it's not sold within the same time period we agree to. That's phenomenal. That's the kind of incentive you want and the kind of commitment that you want. It's just fantastic. I like Gay as a person, and that makes it so much easier to talk about her as the professional as well. She's very, very committed to families and adoption, and it's touched her life. It's touched mine, my immediate family. I think if you're going to try to do something right now with this real estate market, you can throw a dart at a dartboard across a dark, dark room and see if you hit the bullseye, or you can just stand right in front of the dartboard and push that dart right through the bullseye. And that's what you do when you call 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. Beat the system by getting the person that knows the system the best. That's Gay Ribble. Give her a call, 833-301-SOLD, or check her out at gayhasthebuyers.com. Be back with your calls, and we do have some 303-696-1971, and your text right after this is George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here on the George Show. No, Billy, I do not know this one. What is
You
this?
don't know this one?
I don't. Was this 80s? Feels
yeah,
80s?
This is 80s. This is Do They Know It's Christmas? You know, the Band-Aid thing?
Wait a minute, I know that, but this doesn't sound like it.
No, this is it.
Hold on, listen. I need the refrain. I knew that. Do they know it's Christmas?
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
So that's what this is. Now, here's the thing, though. It's all these superstars singing, but it was the brainchild of Bob Geldof, who was a little-known lead singer of the Boomtown Rats. And the guy that put together this song and actually wrote it very quickly is a Scottish singer-songwriter that doesn't get a lot of attention because of his skill. You know, he's very talented, but doesn't get a lot of attention. He's more of a new wave artist by the name of Midge Ure. And some people may know him as the lead singer of Ultravox, but it's Bob Geldof and Midge Ure that put all of this together. These minor league singers and songwriters.
It was huge.
Put together this superstar event. Yeah.
And then that gave birth to Farm Aid.
Yep, exactly.
And then there was AIDS.
Yeah.
I think that's different. I don't think there was AIDS.
Yeah, exactly.
Some kind of aid. There was a whole bunch of aids for a while.
Yeah,
Lemonade.
Marmalade. That's the story of this one. I just always think it's a superstar song, but it was put together by two guys who wouldn't be considered superstars. And I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, Billy, you are a wealth of information, the kind of stuff that you would have to spend minutes on Google looking this stuff up, and you just have it there readily available. Listen, our phone number 303-696-1971. My thanks to Casper Stockham, who is going to run for GOP chair. He won't be alone, my guess is, and the people have texted in some other names that they've heard. I've heard those names as well. To be clear, Kristi Burton Brown is not going to run for re-election, and I'm not running for that spot either. Now, listen, you increase the pay, and I don't want to sound super greedy here. I'm not going over the top. $400,000 a year. If you could pay me $400,000 a year, probably still wouldn't do it. But nonetheless, it would be something that would entice more people into the race. Now, listen, we're going to get to the phone lines. 303-696-1971. Phone lines are jammed. But can I just read to you from this Stanford jacked up list of things that they want to change here? Get this. Peanut Gallery. Peanut Gallery. Do you know why Peanut Gallery is disfavored? Because the term refers to the cheapest and worst section in theaters where many black people sat during the vaudeville era. Did anybody out there, including Billy, know that? I should have asked Casper. Did you know that, Casper? I use the term Peanut Gallery all the time, even in the courtroom, like the place behind the bar, back where regular folks sit, the Peanut Gallery. I had no clue, no idea. And my guess is 99% of all African Americans had no idea that's what that meant either. I don't know that. That's just my sense of it. I've never heard any pushback. But here's another one. Here's a gut punch. The term American. Oh, yeah. Can't use American. You should consider using U.S. citizen. The term often refers to people from the United States only, and thereby insinuating that the U.S. is the most important country in the Americas, which is actually made up of 42 countries. I want to use the F word here, but I can't do it. You can't even use the term victim. It's people who are experiencing apparently rape. How about this one? Before we get to Jennifer, Gary, and Brian, let me just listen to this. Brown bag. That's right. You can't use brown bag. You have to use the term lunch and learn or tech talk. Here's why. Brown bag is historically associated with the, quote, brown paper bag test that certain black sororities and fraternities use to judge skin color. Those whose skin color was darker than the brown bag were not allowed to join. That is the dumbest, most inaccurate thing I've ever heard.
What do I do if my lunch is in a brown bag?
That's it, buddy.
When I go to the store and I buy the bags for the kids, they're brown.
That's right.
What am I supposed to do?
That's right.
How do I turn and I say, hey, Katie, can you hand me the what am I supposed to say?
The bag currently experiencing brownness or something. But that's how I've always associated. It's a brown bag talk, which tells me it's a bring your own lunch thing. And most people bring them in those brown paper bags like I had growing up. To reach back into some kind of who's coming up with this garbage, the brown paper bag test that certain black sororities and fraternities. What?
Soon we're going to have to refer to the gym that we go to, in the schools as the James, because gym is just too informal. And it's some sort of a mocking and of people that are formerly named James. So instead, we're probably going to have to go to the James.
I don't understand this. You can't even wait for this one, folks. You can't even use the term people of color. It's too generically used. You have to use BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and People of Color, BIPOC.
I'm sorry, but to be fair, the first time that I see any of my friends of, I can't say that word, and I call them they're going to punch me, and I will not begrudge them because it sounds like an insult. Saying, you're that sounds like an insult.
Bill, you can't even be white anymore. You are a person experiencing an absence of color. You know what I mean? Like,
one of us in this conversation more than the other. But
for sure, I am the pale one. There's no doubt about it. I'm sorry for that little diversion, folks, from our topic, but what in the world is going on at Stanford? And someone texted in, hey, Leland Stanford was kind of a slave dude himself with the Chinese building. I guess we're going to have to ban Stanford. And they've appropriated a living being, the cardinal. It's a tree, folks. You can't appropriate another living organism. You have to call it something else. Jennifer, you're on 710 KNUS. Jennifer, what are your thoughts?
Hey, good morning, George.
Good morning.
So glad you and Bill are back.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to hear
Bill
your
never left.
faithful banter.
Bill was held hostage.
I know, but he didn't get to talk as much. The others don't let him talk as much.
That's a mistake.
Anyway, it is a mistake. But anyway, so that's my happy talk for the day. I want to address Casper Stockham being on the radio this morning and all the wonderful messaging he says that I'm sorry, I really question because I've looked at his Facebook post. You know, he made a mockery out of a gift he received at a GOP group Christmas party that makes a mockery of the attack on Paul Pelosi. And I don't care where you stand on that attack, whether you think it was fake, whether you think it was real. It's not messaging, and it's not something that appeals to people, that makes you trust them and want to vote for them. Additionally, he was at this gathering outside GOP headquarters that was not about unity, was not about bringing people together. He should not have been there. Additionally, somebody who participated in one of his candidate, schools was also there, somebody who ran for Congress. And I'm tired of hearing the happy talk from him because the performance isn't there. So sorry for getting on a negative bent and maybe being hypercritical, but I think he has a lot of things to answer for.
Well, my guess is some folks out there listening are going to say, oh, well, Jennifer's a rhino. Jennifer's establishment. Jennifer's anything we can do. Or I'm sorry. Jennifer is a person experiencing rhinology or whatever it is. Yeah, rhinoism, something like that. Rhinoplasty. No, that's a nose job. Anyway, how do we get past this moment in time? Because this party right now is up against the ropes. And I don't care what happy talk people give. There's some real divisions here, and they're either going to be fixed or we're going to have people just stop participating altogether.
Well, I agree. It's unfortunate that Kristi Burton Brown isn't running again, but I completely understand why. I completely support her decision. And here you go. Politicians typically, can be ego driven. She is not. She's looking for the area that she can most contribute, and she believes that's in policy. And, she could have gone for another term and just for the namesake and the title, but she's not. And that's unfortunate because she handled a lot of things this year with grace and poise. So I'm a 50-year Reagan supporter. Reagan Republican is what I like to refer to myself. If you want to call me a rhino, that's fine. But Reagan handled things. He never backed down from a fight. He always supported great conservatism, great principles. But he did it in a way that was not polarizing, that won people. And what we have going on in the party, it's going to take us a decade to get over. There's no quick fix on this. So when you're asking me for solutions, I think we start by everybody deciding, like the Democrats have done, let's set down the pitchforks and torches. I'm trying to search for words here.
That's okay.
And let's start talking about these issues and find out, let's pick 3 things we can all agree on. And then let's put aside the crazy, because I think that we lost this election because nobody trusts the Republican Party because we act like a bunch of fools. So
Well, we
I
seem
don't
to
know if
have
that
hit.
helps. I don't know if I have the silver bullet.
We seem to have hit a ceiling in the state of 45%. We just can't seem to get past the 45%. Only one statewide candidate has done so since 2016. That's a problem long term, and I think some of those gaps are getting wider. I don't know. I appreciate some of the thoughts. I think Casper obviously has some work to do, but I want to see who else steps forward to say they want to take this on. This thing is a job that is not attractive. I mean, you just know that no matter what decision you make, you're going to alienate somebody, and we're not in the business of winning right now. We're in the business of purity. We're in the business of purging, and that is a company, that is an organization, that is a party that is set up for failure. That is not a way to victory. And for all those people that are out there, Jennifer, thanks so much, by the way, for the phone call. For all those people out there that think if we're just more conservative in our messaging, if we just have more Trump-supported candidates that are out there and Trump-supporting candidates, then Colorado's unaffiliated voters, if we just take away their ability to participate in the primary, I don't agree. I should have asked Casper that too. Should we pull the primary away from non-registered Republicans? Should we just make it at the assembly? I mean, those are big, big issues. 303-696-1971. Jennifer, great call. That line is open. I want to tell you about our good friends at Twin Aspen Dental Center, Doctors Richter and Snyder. You heard them on the radio here a couple times now. They've been in studio. They are fun, fantastic, and according to the Stanford discussion guide here, they are word appropriate guide. They're subject matter experts. I can't call them dental gurus. They are subject matter experts. They have a great plan here, especially in the holidays when people are starting to assess 2023 and what their funds look like moving forward. They have a reduced fee dental membership plan that allows families and individuals to receive their top shelf preventative care in addition to quality dental treatment at reduced prices. With it, you get 2 routine exams. That's what you need every year. All necessary x-rays, an emergency exam, which you hope you never need, and 1 fluoride application for the kids under age 18. You also receive 25% off all dental services. I've told you about how easy it is to work with these folks, setting up an appointment, going in. So comfortable. I felt no apprehension at all. I fell asleep twice in the chair. Go to twinaspendentalcenter.com. twinaspendentalcenter.com, or make an appointment at 303-841-7466, 303-841-7466. Brian, you're on 710. What do you think, Brian?
Hey, George.
Hey.
Hey, I'm for Casper, and what I didn't hear, I heard a lot from him that I didn't hear from KBB. After the election was over, I heard from KBB, the electorate is now blue, and there's nothing we can do, and the crazies hurt us, and Trump was a noose. And
did you hear her say that?
Where did you hear her say that? The day after the election, or was it, I think, a couple of days, I heard you had Priscilla Ron and her on, and they did say, I think we have to face the fact that Colorado electric has changed, and we're going to be a minority party for a while. She has said those exact words. So that's not someone who's fighting, and that's not somebody who I want to lead, saying we're going to have to accept being a minority party for a while. I think that might be the reality, but that's not something you say. I didn't hear her have any solutions like Casper does, like reaching out to the youth, which they didn't, which they lost in the ground game. They lost in the messaging game. I didn't hear her say she had solutions for any of that. So, your previous caller talked about results. We didn't get any from KPB. So I'm sorry.
That's too strong. I disagree with you.
George.
I disagree with you that she didn't produce any results. We talked about those Senate races where whatever path we were on wasn't enough to get in the end zone, but we did get into the red zone in the races in which we targeted, which were the state Senate races. The other races, the statewide ones, that's a problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to run a candidate for Senate in this state that's pro-abortion, you're probably going to lose. I mean, that's like a no-brainer.
Do you think
George.
a pro-life candidate would have won?
He would have had a better shot.
Why?
I just think if you think that's a winning candidate in Colorado, GOP, then you don't know Colorado GOP. So that's the problem right there. If you think that was a smart move, it proved to be a disaster. So let's move on from that. Like Casper's talking about solutions. He's talking about doing things that she didn't do. So why can't we embrace that? As far as the party, those crazies that are yelling stuff, those don't reflect me, George. They don't reflect most of the GOP. That's a small fraction. Both sides have crazies on there that are going to yell and scream names. Shoot, I've been called worse than what was over there too. Being a Hispanic American, growing up in white suburbia, I've been called worse. But am I shying away from my life or anything else? Any other challenges? I'm not.
Brian, two quick things
them.
here I want to get from you. If you're voting for the next chair of the state GOP, two questions. Do they have to be someone that accepts, embraces, acknowledges that the 2020 or 2022 elections were stolen? And two, do they also have to be in favor of closing the primaries and going to an all-assembly kind of nomination process?
On the first one, no. They don't have to be an election denier to me. I think Casper's answer was spot on. Yeah, we want to have faith in the system, and we don't. We don't have transparency. We don't have faith in the system. So he wants to we're being called crazy because we don't trust our government. Like, come on. So many nefarious things happened in that 2020 election. I don't trust the results. Am I saying things are stolen? No, I just don't trust it. And then when you go say that, you have the GOP saying, oh, here we have an election denier. Oh, here we have this. Don't alienate people like me. And that's what they did. And that's why we lost big. I think we would have lost anyway, but we lost big because they did what they did. If anything, we went backwards. I'm just trying to look for someone to move forward with, because it's going to take increments of forwardness to get back to where we need to be. We went backwards this election. So, and everyone's got a lot to blame, but I didn't hear any solutions from the gals, and I supported Priscilla, Ron, and Catherine. I really did.
Kristi,
at the beginning, Kristi, I called Kristi. I'm sorry. I called all the time when they were on with Peter Boyles and Peter Boyles, all the way back to when Peter Boyles was having them on. I was like, you guys have a great message.
Brian, let me cut you off here, not because I don't want to have the conversation with you, but because time is short for us. Merry Christmas, man. I know we're going to continue to talk to you. Thank you for always being a thoughtful listener, even when we disagree. I appreciate that. Hey, before I cut away for our last break, before we get into that last segment of the show, got to tell you about Littleton Jewelry. It's not too late, folks. I know you're looking at the calendar the way I am, and you're trying to figure out, what am I going to get that person I love? I've only got a few days left. Whatever custom jewelry can't be done in 2 or 3 days, and I'm not convinced they couldn't do it. That's why you got to give them a call or go out there and see them. Just south of Hudson Gardens on the west side of Santa Fe, you turn right by the jewelry repair sign. But I'm telling you, they have so many other options there. They buy and sell gold, silver, platinum, jewelry, precious stones, coins, name something. They also clean up and fix jewelry. They fix watches. They fix mine. You can still be part of that magical Santa experience of giving someone you love something that they're going to remember forever. That's just different than anything else you're going to get on Amazon or one of the mall stores or something like that. Go out there and say hi to Jesse and his team of elves, man. They're local. People who are experiencing elfdom. I don't know what it is out there at Littleton Jewelry. Check them out. Go to littletonfinejewelry.com. That's littletonfinejewelry.com. When we come back, we'll get to as many calls as we can and texts. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. Oh, that's the good stuff right there on 710 KNUS. We're going to try to figure out a way to, whether it's this Christmas or next, to get Billy to figure out how to take his awesome collection of Christmas bumper music and fit it into the non-CD universe in which we find ourselves at the moment. Listen, I also had to take care of something else. It may be that I forgot to wish someone named Jennifer, a caller, a Merry Christmas, which I've done for all the other callers. That was brought to my attention. I apologize for that. Merry Christmas. So that's if you're a practitioner of it. If not, then I don't know, screw you. No, I'm kidding. Happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, and all that. One last quick, big shout out to folks that can help still at this moment make your house awesome moving forward. That is our friends at Urban Lights. They are Denver's largest lighting showroom. I'm not kidding. 20,000 square feet. It's like Christmas in there. The lights everywhere with the things you can do with your home to prettify it, especially moving into the new year. Dave and his folks out there are just the bomb when it comes to this. And they're willing to take the extra step, not just in the customer service department, not in just the, hey, you can come touch it, see it, compare it to us in different sizes and colors. And by the way, they do more than lighting. They do the fans, they do the decor, they do furniture, the whole thing. They're willing to go right now, 40% off, 40% off. That's 2 out of 5, folks, out of MSRP for their holiday sale. You can do the mountain modern, vintage rustic, new traditional, fill in the blank. If there's a trend out there, these folks have already crushed this thing. Go check them out. South Santa Fe Drive, just south of I-25 between Mississippi and Florida. You can also check them out online. urbanlightsdenver.com. That's urbanlightsdenver.com. Hey, my thanks to everybody that called in today. The texts, we've had a billion of them. Keep working on your language thing. I'll see if I can post that Stanford nonsense that's on there. Thanks to Sheri Peif from Complete Colorado. Check out her columns on page 2. My thanks to Casper Stockham, Kristi Burton Brown. And tomorrow will be our Christmas Eve show, maybe clothing optional. Check out the YouTube channel and subscribe. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.